Hello, geeks. It's good to see you here. My name is Shauna, pronouns she, they.
My name is Joe, pronouns she, they.
My name is Connor, pronouns he, him.
My name is Travis, pronouns he, him.
And my name is Amanda, pronouns she, her.
And we're so glad that you've come to Mythic Geekdom's supporting roles. I'm here with the cast of the Illuminated Outcasts, and we are here to fill you in on the story thus far. This is a campaign that's been going on for a little bit of time, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but I think you need to know at least a little bit of the backstory of what's been going on with this party of misfits. This is going to feel very much like someone trying to tell you their dream.
Accurate.
But it's 5 of us trying to tell you the same dream.
I don't know if that makes things better or worse.
But
I think I should
Yes.
try and do the first arc just because I wasn't there for it. So
Right?
purely by the little bit I've gotten from all of you, which is like next to nothing. I was like, I think
That's
Shauna
great.
gave me like a 4-sentence synopsis when I joined.
Yeah, right? This is going to be fantastic.
I was like, huh?
Amazing.
I personally think that it's good to know just to get kind of like a little bit of a schema on what the world is and who these people are before we actually dive into where we left off. So, the things you need to know, friends. This is the world of Crunera. It's my homebrew world. We start the story in the country of Midlendell. Yeah, Midlendell, yay, thanks, Joe. That looks great. It's awesome. And while we are in the country of Midlendell, there's a few things that need to be explained. But we start off like most campaigns, not necessarily in a tavern, but definitely in a small town. So, we start off in the small town of Alsheen. It is a predominantly halfling town. It's tiny little farming kind of town, near the forests to the west. It's quaint and small and sweet, and there's just one main road that goes through it. But what's fantastic about Alsheen, one of the many reasons that Alsheen is fantastic, is in the summer they have a beautiful holiday called the Festival of the Sun. And the Festival of the Sun is a competition where people from all over come into this very small town and compete. And there are 3 categories for this competition. The first one is song, the second one is story, and the third one is strength. And the one who can do the best at all 3 becomes the champion of the sun for that year. We enter into this with Joe's character, the Golden Spade. Joe, did you want to explain your character for us really quick?
Oh man, yeah. This is GS, the golden. Oh no, that's wrong.
Nope.
That's the whole
Thanks.
party.
No, no,
Too
no,
soon,
no.
too soon.
Whole party too soon. Here we
Too
go.
soon.
Too soon.
SGS, the Golden Spade. Okay, so a thing that you told me, Shauna, in this culture is that spade is a derogatory term for a tiefling. Notice the lovely spade tail. And she decided that she would call herself the Golden Spade, because if people are going to call you a derogatory term, then take it and turn it into your power. You're going to call me that anyway. I'm going to make you call me the golden version of that. And now every little kid out there who gets called a spade has a reason to be proud of that, rather than to accept it as derogatory. So yeah, she goes around and she does bardic things. She definitely likes to sing and write music, and she gets a pretty nifty instrument. She grew up in a tiny little town. Her parents ran an inn in a border town between the north and the south. And yeah, she would entertain all the people that came into the little inn and tavern. And then she went to study at Merlesh.
It's cool, Joe. Don't
Okay,
worry.
cool. She went went to study at Merlesh and learned how to be a bard and learned some history and music and all that kind of stuff. And there was a lute there on display, a historical lute, which was very special and prestigious and old and museum and all that good stuff. And it called to her one night, very, very Encanto-like, not Encanto, Coco, very much like Coco, where the instrument calls to you and you just gotta take it. And technically you're stealing it.
For the anti-Indiana Jones, it's fine.
Exactly. We're repatriating this thing. This is a lute and it's meant to be played and be out there. It's sentient of some sort and it doesn't want to be locked in this prison for your display,
Right.
Of frickin' colonizers. So we're going to take it out and save it and go play. Of course, the powers that be aren't going to see it that way, which is why she's kind of trying to not go back to Merlesh and not let people know her real name. Which she has a real name, so that's why she goes by the Golden Spade.
But she goes by GS.
Yes.
So this tiefling
friends.
bard enters into what seems like a very bardic challenge, and enters into all of the categories, because if you want to be champion of the sun, you have to at least try for all 3 spots. And the former champion of the sun, a interesting man named Brightbeam, his last name, named Brightbeam, is there and does as well in the singing category as GS does.
No, the singing was first. I mean, the singing was last. The fighting was first.
I understand, but I'm just gonna go down the line here.
He doesn't do as well in the singing as I do.
Wow, okay.
I whoop his ass.
Don't you worry about it.
Spoken like a true bard.
Yep.
The other category, storytelling, we meet one of the other characters. An interesting, very lanky, all limbs kind of guy, but in some armor, comes in and enters into the storytelling portion of this, which catches a lot of the audience's eye. So Cliff, Travis, can you explain who Cliff is, please?
Absolutely. Cliff is, how to put it lightly, a golden retriever, heart of gold boy is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff grew up in a small, less fortunate town, and when tragedy struck and his family was cursed in the town, he made it his goal to alleviate the curse placed upon the closest person to him. And so through much study and preparation and time, he eventually took, vows isn't the right word, but faith in the deity known as Torm, the god of courage and self-sacrifice. Using this power bestowed upon him by Torm, he was able to take the curse away from his father figure and put it onto himself instead. And since then, he's been driven by assisting and helping other people and alleviating the problems which harm them the most. Most of the time, this comes in the form of curses, of which he's collected quite a few by this point.
And so this human cleric coming in and speaking in third person about a man who is folklore of known as the Curse Collector does fairly well in this category. The other category, a feat of strength. We see a orcish woman. She has a beautiful blade and a symbol of the sun to Pelor. Younger. The mannerisms seem a little adolescent, coming of age, I would say. Beautiful barbarian named Liga. Wonderful character who does fairly well within the feats of strength. However, Liga didn't join the storytelling or the singing aspect, so isn't up for Champion of the Sun. And neither is Cliff. But Brightbeam and GS try for all of these and do fairly well and get to a point of the finals, I suppose. To which GS wins, becomes the new Champion of the Sun within this area, and a new rival has possibly been made.
I went so hardcore that I wrote a whole song to sing during the
I was actually
session.
going to ask you, Joe.
Oh yeah.
You chose a bard. You yourself are a bard.
Yes, I self-identify as a bard. Yes.
Yes. Why did you want to go with songs, like, and actually making parts of or whole songs of what has happened for this character?
I play a lot of D&D, and I have played many different races and classes and all sorts of things. But I've never had an opportunity to play a bard that really got to exercise my songwriting skills. And so I decided to go down that road with this particular character. It just felt like a fun thing that I hadn't been able to do yet.
Yeah. I remember doing the Festival of the Sun.
Yeah.
And being like, whatever you guys come up with, you don't actually have to tell like a full story. You don't actually have to do a song. You can describe. Feel free. And
but we go hard, man.
I found out that these players, they go hard. They want to do it.
Travis told this whole story about the Curse Collector, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Of course, at that time, it was not made evident that Cliff himself was the Curse Collector.
Right.
But it was like, is he talking about himself? No, he can't be. He's talking about something important to him.
Gotta keep some secrets in the wings for later.
Yeah, but it was so fun. It was so beautifully told. It was definitely better than anything that I or GS did for storytelling. But when it came to the song, I'm like, I realize I don't have to do this. Not every bard has to be a musician. Not every bard has to be a songwriter. That's just the way I like to do it, and that's the way I like to do this bard in particular. And so I wanted to challenge myself by writing a whole freaking song, and I did. It was this like epic poem song, folk song about like the sun and the moon, loving each other and always being apart from each other in the sky, but how they always loved each other and how the moon reflects the sun's light and all that
Very
stuff.
cool.
And it worked with my whole golden thing going on, and it made Brightbeam really unhappy because
you rolled fantastic on it as well.
and you
so,
gave me
I mean,
advantage because
yeah.
I wrote a thing. You let me have advantage, and because I
Yeah.
had advantage in a good mod, yay bards! I rolled high and I
Yes.
beat his ass.
So
Ultimately, the theme of the song being about gold too is where our party name even came from in the first place.
Yes.
It all came from the illumination that was presented in that song, and the gold and the light that was presented there, and how we all met. That came from our name.
We all eventually realized that we had something about us that was illuminated and something about us that was an outcast. And I suppose we'll get into more of those specific
We
things
will, yeah.
later when we meet everyone.
But while you're partying, being champions of the sun, and talking to these other people who did fairly well within the competition, there is a Cobalt Ambush on Alsheen. And most people would go, this makes sense. It's the beginning of a D&D campaign. You're going to have something
Kobolds.
like
Yeah.
However, there's two things you should know. One, within the world of Krunera, there hasn't been dragons or dragon-like types for hundreds of years. So kobolds, seeing kobolds, these reptilian, almost dragon-like, wild creatures, is a little strange. But the second thing is, you see a blue-robed figure with them that seems to be kind of calling the shots on all of this. You fight a lot of the kobolds and take care of fires and people dying within the town because of this. But the robed figure and some of the kobolds get away. Within the town, while watching the Festival of the Sun, and now having this incursion of these creatures, a councilwoman from a neighboring town who's been in Alsheen for the festival is feeling a little panicked and calls upon Liga, Cliff, and GS to escort her back to the town of Ravreen. This is Alula.
This is the first time that we are seeing the
yes,
art of Allure.
It's real pretty.
Alula, yeah.
Nyaris.
Oh my goodness.
She's a gnomish councilwoman. She's kind of round, very sweet, but a little jittery now that this has happened. And as you move east, you move into the town of Ravreen. And within Ravreen, gonna show. So, I see what you're doing. I don't want to give too much away. There you go. It's to the east. Definitely bigger than Alsheen is. Within Ravreen, you're able to safely, after, a few encounters and things, because it's D&D, you're able to transport Alula Nyaris, the councilwoman of Ravreen, one of them, back to safety. And you also head to a tavern called the Powder Keg. And within the Powder Keg, we meet Kara. Connor, will you please describe your character, Kara?
Kara is a very quiet character, especially when you meet her in this lovely, quiet tavern of the Powder Keg. She comes from the neighboring country of Durin, and she's got slightly dreaded hair with shaved sides. The artwork is just fabulous, by the way. And and she comes from a very secluded clan of people in Durin, and due to reasons that we will discuss later, she had to leave and traveled her way northward through the mountains and arrived in Riverine. And all the while she was there, she used some of the skills that she learned within her clan to create maps, and is kind of just chilling in this new country full of new possibility.
Yes. Kara's a very interesting character, at least on my end. And I wanted to ask you, when we started this out, map maker was one of the things that you definitely wanted to bring forth for Kara, and very, very soon after, also wanted Kara to be a chef. Why did you choose these things that we don't normally see in a D&D character, and why are they so important to Kara?
I chose Mapmaker specifically for Kara. The chef thing we'll get into in just a second, but
okay.
Mapmaker in particular, I wanted that because I know personally for me, I'm very direction oriented. Like, if I had an actual feat, I would have like 90% of the Keen Mind feat. I always know where north is, and because I always have a watch, I always know what time it is. So I wanted to have a character that was very familiar with the layout of the land, or at least loved the idea of discovering the layout of the land and jotting that down, and possibly potentially using that as favors or a way to make money easily. Of, I've just made an entire topographical map of this area, would you like it?
Yeah,
because it's not normally a common thing in D&D to have map making.
Exactly. It's very interesting.
Now, to touch on the chef point, that was an unexpected thing that happened around the time that we were at the point in the story where the chef feat really kind of came into view. Tasha's had just come out and the chef feat became accessible, but all throughout creating the story, I'm all about like, so what are we having for dinner? And Kara's constantly making food because everybody needs to eat. And so
one of those random things that I'm like, as a DM, you always get random questions, right? But there's something of like when somebody asks you like,
so what are we having at this tavern? What did they make?
What did they make at this tavern? Or like specifically, what does this place smell like? Or what does this person smell like? Or, having specific questions that keep coming up from that same character that you're like, I'm gonna have to really like think on this, because I'm understanding that, one, this is a character thing, but also the player wants to have this as one of their outlets.
And we just kind of decided as a party that that's what we wanted. There have been other campaigns I've played in where you don't really talk, everyone assumes you're eating, but we don't really talk about what you're eating, whatever. But in this campaign, man, it's always, what are we eating? What does it smell like? What spices are a part of it? And it just became important for this campaign. You know, Midlendell's Maps and Meals.
Midlendell's Maps and Meals. Coming to a market near you.
Right?
I'm just kidding. Maybe someday. I don't know. But I will say another thing for Kara and the map-making kind of brain that she has is something that's known in our own world is different regions, different topographical regions have different foods. And that all plays in together. And so that was kind of a thread from the map-making brain into, well, what's the agriculture here? What kind of food do they have?
Yeah.
And it became an integral part of her character.
Right. It's very interesting that Kara has this, obviously having some druid background as well as some monk background. There's always this balance of what is the land and what it looks like, and what does it give? What does it provide to the people and the culture, and then how are they married together? Which I just found extremely interesting. So you meet Kara, get along swimmingly, of course, and stay over at the Temple of the Righteous Hand. And for lodging, which is one of the temples that Cliff has worked at before. And a few days later, coming into the marketplace in front of this place is a man who is dressed in beautiful armor and just looks, there you go, looks like a stellar kind of guy. Like, he is a hero, and he is completely beaten to heck, stumbles in, and
I thought he was carried in, if I remember correctly.
I
Yeah,
thought
he
he promptly
was carried in.
I
from the
remember
gate.
carried in. That's
carried
what I
in.
remember.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's been a year or two.
Yeah, right?
Details
carried
are
in, but I
fuzzy.
know that within the marketplace, he goes unconscious. He's lost so much blood and whatever that he goes unconscious. Naturally, this group, being the awesome heroes that they are, come to the rescue, try to give aid to who we find is Captain O'Brennan of Riverine. He's like one of the main dudes of Riverine. And naturally you go, okay, so why you almost die, bro? And he explains that he and a party of his were supposed to go north. And got attacked by some Goliaths, some bestial things. We're unsure at this point. But he thinks that the rest of his party has been captured and taken. They were supposed to be heading up north towards Call and to talk trade route situations and negotiations, and this happens. Alula, councilwoman, goes, hey, they handled taking me from there to here. They can probably handle, finding these people for you. Captain O'Brennan stays to get healed up within Riverine, and this adventuring party goes off to find the adventuring party. This adventuring party that I'm speaking of is called the Dawn of Swords. And you guys travel north towards Call. You pass GS's hometown, stay in this tiny little hamlet.
Meet my little parents.
Meet parents and everything like that.
Y'all hear my real name?
You do. And you also...
Real quick, is the audience allowed to hear the real name?
Yeah, the audience is allowed to hear the real
Go for
name.
it.
Akasha Tharai.
There you go. Parents are extremely proud, although they don't know of the, theft.
I keep them ignorant of that because I don't want them to have, if people go around asking questions, I don't want them to get back to them. And
Yes.
if they get back to them, I don't want them to know anything for their own safety.
Right. You, after staying there for a little bit, continue further north. You meet the brothers Brownleaf.
I freaking love them! Can we
I
talk
forgot
for
about
just
them,
a
I'm gonna be
minute
honest.
about the brothers Brownleaf?
Please, go ahead and talk brothers Brownleaf.
And this is also the moment that we learn that GS is not a morning person.
Not a morning
It was in the
person.
middle of my watch that I meet the brothers Brownleaf passing through our encampment, arguing with each other so much. and not knowing what the protocol is
Right.
with these people that I just met and decided to adventure with.
And they look like identical twins.
Identical twins.
Yeah.
And I decided to start to wake everybody up, and Kara was truly terrified of the look on GS's face.
GS was not happy to be
No.
This set of twins,
Not
both
actually twins, surprise, surprise.
are both named Anton Brownleaf. They are exactly identical, and we find out that it's this man who's kind of a mad scientist sort of situation, who has probably cloned himself in this
He
moment,
like split himself in two magically.
but doesn't know
which one's the original.
is the original.
High intelligence wizard, low wisdom wizard,
Yeah,
made
exactly.
a simulacrum and went, wait,
Oh,
who's real?
man.
You you comfort the brothers Brownleaf as they have an existential crisis, and take them back to their shack, which is outside of Merlesh, because it can't actually stay in Merlesh anymore because it kept blowing up stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like, great, because I can't go in Merlesh either because I'm wanted for theft, so.
Right. So, simpatico.
Yeah.
You find a key on one of them, the key to the house.
But we don't
And
tell them which one had the
won't
key.
necessarily say which one is the real.
We're like, okay, what's your middle name? What's your given name? Great. You now have middle name. You now have given name. You're both equal brothers. There you go. Stop fighting.
Brownleaf, yeah.
Exactly.
And solve it as these two are now their own people anyway, and they're starting to, make different decisions and have their own thoughts and lives and stuff, making them both valid people, which I thought was fantastic.
Audience, you will certainly see a trend with this kind of problem solving.
Oh,
Yes,
man.
The Illuminated
yes.
Outcasts. This is the moment.
That's kind
it
of
all
what we
started.
do.
Agreed. You continue up the way towards Call. Don't necessarily make it to Call before you are on set with many monstrous, almost werewolfy-like beings, some Goliaths and whatnot, who stop you in the road. You take care of them, no problem.
They look like bandits and just awful people.
Right.
Yeah.
But you find out that they have sort of like a caravan that's been pulled off of the side of the road.
Frickin' slavers.
They're slavers. And they have taken the Dawn of Swords, and held them captive. Not Captain Albrennan, who is in the center here, but everybody else who you see within the Dawn of Swords, including a almost Viking-esque looking woman. So Amanda, would you like to describe your character for us?
So, yes. Sure.
Gotcha.
I don't know how tall she is. I can't remember. She's tall.
Tall.
She's a big Viking, like you say. Woman, doesn't wear any armor, as you can see in the photo here. I think technically she keeps getting a cloak and giving it away at this point. This is kind of a trend somehow in my mind. Braids, many braids that are all throughout her hair, just to keep it out of her face. At first glance, probably would seem super messy, but then as you notice, and as her party probably has noticed, she does tend to rebraid them. She also has a war paint makeup design that she reapplies throughout their journeys across her eyes. It's kind of a blue tint, and on her shield arm has a tattoo of sorts that kind of has a bluish greenish glow. You can kind of see it there in the art.
I love that Joe's like, I'll try and zoom in.
When the party, yeah. So she's really very plain compared to the rest of the party in a lot of ways, especially early on.
Yeah.
But she kind of likes it that way. So yeah, definitely a muscle. If you saw when you saw the group shot, you can tell she's kind of the muscle of the group. And also relatively younger than the rest of this party.
Dawn of Swords, yes.
The Dawn of Swords party.
And is like very new to this specific adventuring party. Was brought on by the orcish man that's next to her, Jean.
John!
And from talks with Alula before you left, she mentions Jean a lot.
Like, are they an item or what?
Right.
We can't ask specifically because, politics, whatever. But obviously very,
I
very,
mean,
very
if
dear
you'd
to
let
her.
Thavana ask, she'd straight up ask. She's already assumed.
She's
I
blood.
mean,
I love how diverse this party is, the Dawn of Swords that you created for us to meet. We've got Thavana, we've got Albrennan, who looks, he looks kind of like Latino inspired.
Yes.
And then you've got this orcish man Jean, who's a brain guy. He's a mind guy.
Yes.
He's not a fight guy.
Correct. He's brought on as an ambassador and as a historian.
Yeah.
He's basically probably the one with the least amount of hit points out of the group. And he's huge.
Yeah.
And consistently gets told that he should not be on this trip. Just
right. We've got our kick-ass rogue over here, who I learn a lot from, Phelan. I love her. You don't want to cross her in a dark alleyway ever, or cross her ever.
In broad daylight, she'd still
pretty much
end you.
Yeah.
And then our druid is a trans woman, right?
Yes.
That was
and Water Shari.
Such a cool representation.
Water Shari or Water Genasi?
I'm sorry. Water Genasi.
Water Genasi.
There we go. Water Genasi.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past her.
Right. So the Dawn of Swords are manacled within this caravan. They have sort of magical manacles on them, making it so they can't spellcast or anything like that. You're able to get them out of the caravan. Some of them still kind of stuck, Thavana.
Well, there was still fighting going on.
There was
this was all in the middle of the battle.
When I think Kara got to Thavana and couldn't get her out of the manacles. So then Thavana did a lot of smashy.
Yeah, a lot of fighting with the manacles on.
There was a lot of trying to get them off in very creative fashions, which ended up damaging them. So she was stuck with them for a while.
I think the one member of the Dawn of Swords that we didn't mention their name is the druid. Her name is Camille, right?
Yes.
Camille. Good. So we've got Thavana, Jean, Albrennan, Camille, and Phelan.
And for our listeners, when you do hear references to Thavana having magical manacles, one of the sets of manacles that were magicked, we took off of this group. And she has kept them and likes to use them.
I wanted to ask you, Amanda. Amanda joined our group later, quite a bit later than the rest. And you actually had this artwork to go off of. These were just like NPCs that were going to be hanging out, and you wanted to join the campaign and play. And I said, well, I literally have 5 characters that you could look at.
I think it was, hey, we need some muscle for a couple sessions. Can you help us out? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then it was, you want to keep playing? And I went, yeah, sure.
Yes. How is it different to get a piece of artwork first for a character and then build them from that, as opposed to building them from scratch or however else you've done it for other campaigns?
Well, Shauna and I have talked about this a little bit. I am not, and I realize this because I play quite a bit of D&D. I am not the person who I love hearing the descriptions, but I am not a person who sits there and writes down. And everyone in this group can attest, I am an avid note taker. This is probably my least note taking group, and I still take a lot of notes.
As someone who plays in another campaign with Amanda, I can attest to this.
Yes.
As you watch stream, I will say this is the least one, and that's not saying a lot, to be honest. If you see me looking down or you see me looking to the side, chances are I'm taking notes. No, I've never been the one who writes more than maybe their race and gender, if it's given. I've never been like, Shauna has asked me questions about characters and been like, hey, blah, 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 do you remember what I said about their hair color? And I'm like, nope. Because until I see a picture of them, it doesn't stick for me. And so that's never been my style of creation, I guess, which is I create more from, I get an idea of who I think that person is based off of what their backstory is, and I start weaving a backstory that I like and playing with it that way. And then from there is then amazingly talented artists like Shauna and other friends I have who I tell them about it, and if they drive, then I get super excited. So for me, having a character in my mind's eye before creating the character was a really strange juxtaposition to be in, because I've never done it that way. Probably the closest I ever did was I created Elsa, and I didn't create her visually when I created, I mean, I did, but it was actually after the fact when I was creating the sorcerer character that I went, oh, it's Elsa.
I've done that.
And then I was like, that's okay. I'm gonna go with it. I like it. Let's go with it.
Yeah,
it's a fun concept. And so for me, it was a very different way to go about things. And so it was a really cool kind of just trial of, okay, how can I connect this to something that I've kind of started creating of my own idea of the story. So like Shauna said, there's this Viking-esque appearance to her. Okay, she clearly doesn't come from maybe she does, but probably doesn't come from a noble background. Or if she did, she's moved away from it. That's not where she is right now, because even a noble background, her clothes look kind of poor. They look functional. They don't look in any way, especially even compared to the rest of the group you see in front of you right now.
Yeah.
She's well equipped for what she needs to do, but she's not by any means probably, I think we've joked a couple times like that, she's lucky if she has 2 coins to rub together. Like, she has enough money.
Not about
no,
very
it's not
modest, very modest in financial situation.
Yeah, it's just not like, as long as she has enough to, when she's in town, have a roof over her head and buy a pint of ale and a meal, maybe gamble on a fighting ring or something, or pay the bard who's playing if she likes them, she's kind of chill about it.
Yeah.
So that was it was definitely a different experience, but I will say that's where I play some very intense characters in other games. And so it was really nice to come into a campaign of just looking at some artwork and going, I don't see that intensity. And as we played, I found the moments that intensity comes out for her, because everybody has it.
And
but
she is a barbarian.
Yeah,
so there's something there.
Yeah. But it definitely turned on its head my character creation in a super long-winded way. That's I highly recommend anybody who gets an opportunity to do that. If you have a friend who's an artist, or you are, draw something and then go. I know people do that, because I have friends who have told me like, hey, I full on created this character because I drew this, or my friend drew this and I loved it, and so I created this character to fit it.
That's cool.
I just personally had never done anything like that, so it's an interesting. It's fun.
So you, the lot of you, along with the Dawn of Swords that are here, in this moment, take care of the rest of the slave traders and whatnot. However, you do find one other character within this group, caged and in a small container.
We've had him that long.
Yeah. Caged in a small container is a baby owl bear. And all of the owl bears just go up on the screen.
By the way, audience, these owl bears that we all have were gifts from Joe and Shauna to each of us for Christmas this past year, and we love them dearly because we love our bestest boy that we meet right now.
You're able to rescue this little baby owlbear, and take him with you.
I mean, we did search around to try and find Mom in this area,
Right.
and that was not successful.
You took him up to call.
He had the opportunity to choose freedom, come with us. By that time, he had like imprinted fully on Kara.
Yeah.
For sure.
Kara was Mom, so
Yes.
and Kara equally imprinted upon this beautiful baby
which
owlbear.
was highly unintentional. Something about how I play D&D a lot of the times is I don't build the backstory until several sessions in the campaign, because I'm still figuring out who this character is, what their deal is, and that was a moment that I was like, oh, animals are important. Here we are.
Yes.
It happened in the moment.
And
That's
so
fun of improv.
we gain this other member of the Illuminated Outcasts, who is affectionately known as McCree. Which in Elvish, was it Elvish?
I believe it was Elvish, because I hadn't created the Kara's native language being a mixture of Elvish and Draconic at the time.
Yes.
But it was Elvish, i.e. Irish, y'all, of my heart is what it
My
means.
heart is what it means, yeah. McCree. You start traveling, you start moving north up to Call to finish the negotiations that the Dawn of Swords needed to have anyway. And you also are having these first moments with McCree. I would love to know what were your first impressions of this tiny owlbear? Did you think you would be it would become such he would become such a staple within the group, or was it, we need to find his mom? What were your first impressions with this little monstrosity?
He's an monstrosity. He's adorable.
He's a
Look at
perfect
those
angel.
eyes.
He's a perfect angel. He's the bestest boy. Honestly, I know of a lot of campaigns that have like a baby owlbear pet or this or that or whatever. What makes McCree so unique and special is you, Shauna.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, the audience, I cannot wait for you to see McCree in all of his beautiful glory.
Yeah.
Because just give us a little taste, Shauna, of how he talks.
Yeah.
Please.
No.
No, the audience needs to know. The audience needs to know before
a
the
teaser.
story.
It's
It's
just
just
a
a teaser. He's so cute. So
I'm being
So,
personally
Connor, you need to give just a little, like, give a little prompt as Kara.
little bit.
Okay. It's been so long.
I know.
No, that's why I was like, I'll just play with the little figure. He likes to argue with Ivana though. So.
That's true.
Not in a bad way. It's just
Hey, McCree. What do you want? Do you want some jerky? Or what do you want for dinner? you want jerky or do you want meat? What can I get for you for dinner? Or do you want to go hunting for it?
Right?
I know, so many decisions. So,
Right?
snacks,
Right?
food,
Right?
or hunting with Auntie Thavona?
Come on.
And
you
there
go.
you are.
He kind of has his own
That's our battle
little
cry.
cute language, to which Thavana is 100% knowing
Oh,
exactly what
It's
he's
like
saying.
Han and
Solo
Chewie. She
Chewbacca.
understands.
He understands.
Oh yeah.
However, we find out that within this that one of Cliff's curses deals with animals, and so his relationship with McCree is actually very different from the rest of the group. What were your first impressions of McCree, Travis, and how was it different for Cliff?
Travis immediately fell in love with McCree. It's hard not to, for all of the obvious reasons that you just saw. But as much as Cliff loves McCree, Cliff knows that being around him too much causes his curse to activate, which ultimately, at the end of the day, freaks McCree out. I believe the way that we flavored the curse was a way of... It doesn't physically harm the animals that he's near, but it does give them high anxiety, makes them panic, makes them unreliable, untrustworthy, unfortunately, all due to the nature of the curse. And so as much as Cliff loves McCree and loves spending time with him, and as much as McCree, I know, loves Cliff, the two have to be a little bit separated from each other for both of their sakes. Cliff doesn't want to feel bad for hurting McCree, and I'm sure McCree doesn't want to feel panicked and scared being around somebody that he loves so much. So it's all a balancing act.
It's so heartbreaking.
And so many of Cliff's curses, just when you start to unravel and see how many things, how many detriments are on this poor cleric, it really starts to become pretty heartbreaking. But
That he
for
takes
me
on willingly.
Yeah, for me
Yes.
personally, I feel that the whole problem with animals, and especially since this group has become so close to McCree and this little owlbear, it is, for me, that is one of the exceptionally hard knife to the heart kind of thing for me.
It really is. But it
Cliff
just
has
makes
probably
those...
bled more from his fingers because of McCree than any other reason. I've been
Oh my
bit by
gosh.
that owlbear a million and a half
Yes!
times now.
But it makes those moments where you
I don't know.
roll
You've been bit by a
well.
horse a lot.
Oh, that's true.
That's true.
It makes those moments so much more special when you roll well enough as Cliff to have a good sweet moment with McCree. And it's like, oh, look, it worked this time.
Yeah.
They're getting
Yes.
along. And it's so sweet.
So you head up to Call. You come in with the Dawn of Swords for these negotiations for trade. And Liga is with you. The Dawn of Swords, other than Albrennan, is with you in this. And you find out that you are basically coming in at a wedding. And we find out that Call is a predominantly Goliath-based clan. I don't even want to call it a town necessarily, as much as it is a clan. And as you move into this wedding, it is customary for the bride and groom to get themselves a squad and fight each other. There ain't no first dances here.
It's very
They fight
Klingon.
each other. You help out with the first fight, as it is, showing that you understand and are open to the culture that these people of Call have.
And I will say, Thavana was exceptionally badass because she did the
Exceptionally.
entire thing while still
that's
bound.
right.
While
to the
still
chapter
manacled.
manacles.
They couldn't get the
Yeah.
manacles off.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
couldn't get the manacles off.
Oh, and
Um,
viewers won't know this, but that actually does massively nerf her.
does, yeah.
I don't even think she could. Could she rage? I can't remember.
I don't even think so. No.
No.
I don't think she
No.
could even rage.
She
No.
couldn't use any of her special
Because,
abilities.
yeah.
Yeah, there was literally not like she was
Magical,
just
man, magical.
Mhm.
okay.
Magical.
I forgot
Uh,
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The group in call starts calling Jean Black Chin for some reason. We find out that he actually grew up in Call and moved down to Riverine, which is why having him here for negotiations was so important. And we also find Liga finding a new sort of home here in Call, loving the culture, loving the people here, and they fully accept her and begin to call her Sun Hunter. And she decides that, at least for now, we never know, she is moving away from the Illuminated Outcasts to be able to live and stay in Call. You head back to Riverine with the people you needed to, with the negotiations handled, or at least open now, and take all of that time to travel back down.
And we travel by tree for some of it using Camille's special ability.
You did, yes.
Yeah.
And-
my question for you guys is, there is quite a lot of travel within our campaign. You guys are exploring a completely different world, and as we've said before, you have a map maker, but it seems, there's a lot of you that are very into the exploration aspect of D&D for this campaign. How do you enjoy the way we do travel, and thoughts on travel in general?
Speaking as a DM, given that I run my own games in my free time, travel is always something that I've found really hard to balance, right? Either it's really boring or it's really fun, and the way that I find myself doing it at my tables. And it's something I actively attempt to get better at, but either you're fighting something on the road or you're moving down the road and nothing's going on. But the way that Shauna does it for us, the way that we take it and run with it, makes travel a lot more interesting. I mean, for example, the Kara chef makes travel so much more enjoyable because Connor has to figure out what ingredients does Kara have on them, what can be made out of those ingredients and whatnot, here in the wild sort of deal. And it just adds more and more flavor to the travel itself, on top of always having tiny things to do, whether that's interaction with the beasts we ride on, or whether that's weather, inclement conditions, terrain being rough, random NPC meetings. A bunch of these things help keep travel really interesting, and I think Shauna does it really well to keep travel just as engaging as, for example, fighting a village of kobolds or anything of that sort.
I think there's also a bit of with this group, and partly we're, I guess, lucky, and I mean, I love my big groups, don't get me wrong, but we're such a small group that and very much invested even early on, joining the group early on, trying to figure out who the heck Thavana was. As Connor said, you kind of create this character, and then you're kind of like still kind of settling into it even weeks later, and you still discover stuff like, shoot, I don't know, it was almost a year into playing when I discovered that Thavana has a pretty serious temper, and it takes a lot to trigger it, but when it's triggered, it's a okay of everyone, and it doesn't happen very often, but when it does. So one of the things I love about this group with travel is that it is very much a attitude of you know, a lot of times Thavana's things during traveling is she goes hunting, she goes foraging to bring stuff back. That's her time. That's how I think in some ways I made the connections that I did with her, with McCree, and taking McCree out and making sure, you know, he still had some of that wildness to him, because Kara is cooking. Kara, that's what Connor does with Kara during that time. And so, but that's also often when we have GS and Travis nurturing their connection. And oh, sound went weird for me. And so I think one of the coolest things about, and it's probably, I don't DM except for middle schoolers, which is a whole different beast of a different color. I think one of the hard things to sometimes balance as a player and as a DM for travel is knowing that just because other things are going on, you can literally just say, yeah, I'm going to go hunting, and let the DM tell you if you got to make a roll. If the DM gifts you a rabbit, don't argue it. Say, sweet, chill. You know, most DMs will probably have you roll some kind of survival or something and go with it. But it doesn't, not every moment has to be role played, but the ones, that way you free up that time for others to have those role plays, because when it is time for you to have those, it comes out. And this group is probably one of the best groups I've ever seen at that kind of knowing those times and those windows, and knowing and accepting the cues from each other. We, you know, there can easily be that feeling of, oh, we're camping during travel. I know this character's having a hard time. I'm going to go try and talk to them. Well, just like real people, sometimes characters really don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, not now.
Yeah.
In character and even out of character if your point isn't being heard. And that's one of the things I've loved about this group is, and I think that's why for us travel has become such an engaging thing that we enjoy, is because it's when, I don't want to say Shauna gets to sit back, but she kind of does, in the sense she gets to sit back and let us share what we know and let us have those bonding moments. It doesn't mean that she's not having to pay attention and do
or be McCree
insane, or be McCree. But again, Shauna gets to be McCree, and I have to imagine that's got to be like, you seem like you have so much fun doing it. And so
I do. I'm glad that there's a character that you guys can't fully understand, because there's moments where it's like you guys are planning. It's a great moment for planning too, this travel time.
Exactly.
And you guys are planning and everything, and McCree's right there, and it's very it would be very easy to just be like, so I think the plan is to do A, B, and C. Look over at McCree, who is the DM,
He's like eating jerky, like
to kind of get anything from the DM, and you guys don't do that at all. It's more just like, I'm usually causing a lot of, obviously, a lot of the tension and the encounters and all of that. So to be able to relieve and be a little bit of comic relief in moments as well is actually very helpful. It's like a good stretch for a DM to just be like, I need to get the what is the next thing that is going to come out and try to foil this group, and just push it away and speak in a gibberish language and be the most adorable owlbear that I can, you know.
and it's a beautiful way of balancing it, I think. I think a lot of times, and again, like my minimal experience with DMing, but sometimes it's hard to let go and let your players do that.
Yeah.
But speaking from, again, someone who plays a lot of D&D multiple times a week, if you don't give your players and their characters that time to process, they will not make connections. They will burn out very quickly.
Yeah.
It's
process
why
has to happen, and travel's a great time.
And for us, I think honestly, travel has become probably the main, and I think it does for a lot of groups, but it's really for this group. Whereas other groups, sometimes it takes them getting to a tavern or a city or a town, and travel really isn't it. Or,
Travel's really where
for
I've
us.
seen a lot of the like cohesion and mesh within the group.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we're in the unique position of not having a wizard and not having we have a druid, but a druid that is not that high level.
Yeah.
And a bard with a wizard initiate feat, which means I get a couple of cantrips and 1 extra spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teleportation is not it.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
So
No,
again,
not
I
yet.
restate. So we
Mm.
have to travel. We
Yes.
have to do this way. There's no quick travel
Yeah.
for us.
So you lot travel back down to Riverine, and while you're here in Riverine, just trying to be cool, there might be a rival bard, Brightbeam, who comes into this tavern and is trying to swindle everybody out of their money and out of their precious possessions, through song. Is brainwashing people to give them their precious possessions.
Hell no.
Also
GS
working
is a
with
big
him,
problem with that.
Also working with him is a guy who has come in and immediately clocked a very cute owl bear and gone, I want you to sell me that. This
No.
immediately puts every single person on edge. But what's interesting
This
about
whole party
this,
could TPK and we'd be fine with it as long as McCree lives. Just so
Uh-huh.
everyone
100%.
understands.
We're
Yeah.
good.
Bye.
But what's interesting about this moment for most of you is we find out that Thavana also knows Brightbeam and has had run-ins as well. So everybody here has had like some kind of beef.
My first
Some
connection,
reason to
but that
hate
didn't
him.
matter. My boy was threatened.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to point out, I did
Um,
not know going in that was going to be.
Right?
There was an obscure reference to a bard that was simply the reason why Thavana
No,
leaves
it's that
town.
bard.
And
Yes.
I was like, Alrighty.
So
And that was with no discussion with Shauna. That was
Yeah.
me. I wrote it in, and I know Shauna just went, "Thank you."
yeah. Brightbeam takes a bunch of money, and as well as GS's loot.
No, he
Um,
freaking
there was a-
doesn't.
There was a
Ugh.
moment for the songbook and the loot. The dude tries to leave with them, but
Hell no.
naturally, Mama Kara is on it. They move out into the square. There's a big fight within the square, as Kara runs down alleys after this guy who was threatening to take her out.
Hardcore!
I sing this big song to like get all of the masses inspired to be like, this guy tried to manipulate you, tried to steal your stuff. I mean,
Yes.
Oh, this is when
yes,
we were
I'm using
running
music
down
to
side streets.
encourage you,
Yeah, we were both
but
running down
he's
side streets.
freaking like mentally manipulating you
Yes.
to give away your prized possessions, track him down, run him out of town, don't ever let him back.
Yes. Brightbeam is caught. We're able to get the loot back. The loot actually at one point makes
Makes them float.
Makes Cliff fly.
Cliff
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah.
So lends a hand has its own abilities that are starting to come out, at least with GS's help, for the group. But it should be said, Kara ran after that guy and
We had him.
iced him. I just
yeah.
completely iced this guy.
Lobbed his head off like a golf ball. Like,
Durr.
iced that man.
Murder
Threatened
with a
my
capital
boy.
M
In
Yeah.
the middle of a city.
in the middle of the city.
Subtlety can sometimes not be her thing.
I mean, like when you come from like this like really violent clan.
Yes.
Violent nomadic clan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needless to say, the councilwoman, who you guys were very honest with, you know, not necessarily being like, hey, we did this, but it was more like, suppose this happened, kind of thing. She caught on very quickly. She was not extremely happy about the whole idea. Thinks that you guys should definitely be out of town for a while. And luckily, though, you do have skills and skills that can help. So she sends you off south to Zayn, as there are ghost stories coming from that area. There's some interesting moments that we get. We get moments of crows that have been following the group for a little bit of time. There is a speak with animals or a comprehend languages situation.
Speak with animals.
That
None of us are wizards. There is no comprehend languages.
There you go.
Here.
I've got a bit of that.
And catches a little bit of the conversation between these two crows of, he's been doing what we've asked. We should go tell him. Obviously the only he, unless you count McCree, in the group, kind of puts the first he into perspective, and we should go tell him is kind of left up to the group. I will tell you right now, there has been many a 1 a.m. conspiracy theory conversation about what these crows could
these
mean.
Damn crows.
And
we don't have metagaming pigeons. We have metagaming crows.
Crows, exactly.
Yeah.
Because of this moment.
Yes. But to this day, we're not exactly sure what that could be. You head into Zayn, and there's this weird mist that has been making people sick and causing problems, and has given the general in Zayn unconsciousness, so can't help. And you kind of go on this mystery of what's causing these mists. What are they doing to people? What is happening within the town? You are told to head to a very specific temple within the town. After obviously sightseeing a little bit, because that's what you do.
And bathhouses. That's what you do.
Bathhouses.
Bathhouses
Oh, the
indeed.
bathhouse. That was the
Bathhouse
first time you guys
great.
saw the scars on Kara's back.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Scars on her back.
Yes.
That's right.
And you head over to this temple and talk to this very old high priest. And I remember you lot immediately going, oh, he's the bad guy. This is the bad guy.
He was just giving sus vibes.
Very sus vibes.
And you, after asking a bunch of people about things, moving over to a school for
Oblatore!
Latore.
We will be talking more
Weird
about that.
freaking place, man.
And, you know, traversing a little bit outside of Zayn, you find that this high priest has been basically trying to awaken some of the people in the catacombs and in the crypts.
Sus from the beginning, man.
Sus from the
From the
beginning.
beginning.
And is, because they are being brought outside the town and whatnot, they're and used basically there, it's causing whatever necromantic stuff that's been happening is mixing within the mists and coming in and causing a bunch of people to be sick.
Wasn't it also mixing within the soil?
It was, yeah, that's right. Because parts of remnants of people were being put in soil and whatnot. But you lot called this like from the beginning. And I just want to like talk really fast about the almost Scooby-Doo nature of this arc.
Yes.
It so was.
It really is. And just how quickly, because it had that kind of feel and that kind of vibe, how quickly you picked out the BBEG of this arc, right? I wanted to ask you guys, quickly, if you had to pick a genre for your character, what genre are they from? Ooh. And then we'll talk about what genre the party as a whole is in and if it changes. Oh, but I want to know individually. Is there a genre that you kind of can see your character in?
Post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
Just based on Kara's backstory alone. We'll get
but
into that later.
Post-apocalyptic, like zombie, like Mad Max, like Waterworld?
No, more like Fallout. The destruction of government, the destruction of society as a whole, and having to survive on your own, where currency means nothing, and using your wits and survival to survive through. Yeah. Cities, who's she?
Right. Cliff, Travis.
The closest thing I guess I could say is romantic comedy.
I can see it.
Oh my god, he is such a rom-com.
He is kind of a rom-com, yeah. What about Thavana?
Gosh, honestly, like she's straight up. Think more modern, like Disney. I'm not even kidding. Like she's textbook. If she was a guy, everyone would, you know, she's not as suave as a lot of, but like she is textbook, you know, just trying to do what's right and the next right thing. And that's kind of her process. There's a little bit of that playing in there, but she's very much, like she's, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is,
I love that.
If we're thinking rom-com and post-apocalyptic, she's definitely probably more just the, hey guys, I'm going to go on an adventure and it's going to be fine. And there's a, you know.
Classic adventure.
What about GS?
All right.
What genre is GS in?
I feel like a epic high fantasy streaming show like Witcher, for example.
Okay.
She definitely she's a bard. She likes to perform. She loves to be recognized for her talent, but she likes to use her power for good. She likes to disguise herself. She has a disguise thing that she can do, and every morning when they're in a town or a city, she'll go to a very public area and pretend to be an old man or a young boy or I don't know, just anything, different race, different class, different young, old, whatever, different gender, and she will play her lute, same lute every time, disguise her voice, and same songs, so people all over are like, oh, the Golden Spade, oh no, the Golden Spade's an old man, no, the Golden Spade's a young elvish boy, no, and everyone has a different story, so it's kind of like a mystery. And then all the money that she collects from busking, she will donate it to the local church and say, make sure it goes to those in need, courtesy of the Golden Spade, and then leaves and doesn't do it looking like her. And so she kind of has this whole Robin Hood thing going on a little bit. So that kind of high fantasy thing, she definitely likes writing songs for the group about their exploits. So, you know, you kind of get a little bit of that Yaskier thing going in there.
Sure.
But she's not your typical look at me, Bard. I want to sleep with everything that walks. She
Yes.
definitely enjoys the company of one particular individual. And she has a lot of anxiety about being seen when she's not performing.
Right.
Hello,
But-
imposter syndrome.
Oh,
Yes.
huge.
But I can definitely see her within that kind of a genre of just, there is some lighthearted fun, but there is a grit to GS and what she's been through, and the things that she is feeling, or the stuff around her necessarily is can be very gritty. What about the group as a whole?
Oh,
What
man.
genre are we in?
For the most part, I would say CW teen young adult.
Yeah.
I hesitate
Yeah.
to say teen, but more CW young
We're the-
adult.
we're-
Young adult.
show.
We're the
Mhm.
WB guys. I'm
Or
sorry.
WB. Yeah. Yeah.
CW. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we have our moments of but there's definitely that, little bit of a lot of just friendship bonding, but then there's the family bonding, then there's the,
Yes.
self-discovery and things like that. So yeah, definitely.
And within this group, I can definitely see by the decisions they make, and we'll get to them in a minute if you haven't already noticed. Because of the decisions they make and because of what they do, I can definitely see that, like, there's a sense of hope. There's like a Doctor Who or like a Star Trek-esque hope behind it all.
Yeah.
While it doesn't necessarily have, sci-fi or any of that in it, it is a fantasy setting. I can definitely see that sort of hope, especially within some of the things that you, Illuminated Outcasts, have made within the decisions when it comes to fighting, when it comes to encounters.
Yeah, we love a good encounter. We love a good fight, but we try to make that a last resort.
Yes.
Unless our little boy's threatened, and then Kara's going to lop your head off.
Oh, for sure.
It gets,
But other than that, we're like, can we talk first? Can we threaten first without actually hurting?
It becomes very apparent that this is the type of thing that you guys do within some of the next arc. But I think this is a great time to take a break, and we will get to this next arc of what happens after Ziane in a moment. So stay tuned. Hey geeks, it's good to see you again for this story thus far with the Illuminated Outcasts. Last we left off, you guys were in Ziane. You were dealing with some crazy necromantic stuff that was happening, and had the help from the headmaster over at the School of Magic, Oplatore. Had a very interesting time within Oplatore. A lot of crazy puzzles and weird sort of almost Alice in Wonderland, gravity doing weird things, stuff there. I'll get to a little more on Oplatore in a second. But with the help of Theo, the headmaster there, you're able to thwart this high priest and take them down, but not before an encounter that is happening within the main throne room. As you had found components and tried to rid them and broke a container which released a shadowy spirit that then
Giant
went in
smoke
and
demon.
possessed
I
Aaron.
still maintain Thavana's logic was sound.
I agree.
Oh, it totally was.
The shadowy figure possessed the Baron of Ziane, and we needed to deal with all of that while having some weird creature try and possibly move from person to person, while all the while trying to save the Baron of Ziane, which you do. The Baron is extremely grateful for what you've done, and talks to the Empress, who lives further south in the capital in Jubileane, and gets it so that you, if you would so wish, meaning you're being voluntold because this is the Empress, that you need to come to a gala in your honor for helping save the Baron. Before we slide down to Jubileane, though, within Oplatore, we do have a very interesting moment of all of you sitting with the headmaster, and within some kind of study of his, and Thavana asks about some of the things, knickknacks and weird things that are in this room, and she spots a very interesting stone, and of course, being the very cryptically chaotic guy that he is, when asked about the stone, told Thavana, go ahead and ask for consent and pick it up. To which we got, that was the nat 20 roll right there. This stone asked for consent, starts glowing around Thavana, and specifically around the interesting mark on her arm. this is where you get players who are I need to pull the chain. There's a red button. I gotta touch it. Sort of situation.
To be fair, this was me trying to troll Shauna, and it just went so much better than I thought it was gonna go.
But she notices that as soon as it's close to the arm, it will start glowing. So naturally, Thevana does what Thevana does and goes, "This seems like a good idea," and places the rock right on the mark.
I really do wish we were videoing then, because the look on everyone's face here when I did it was
like,
just...
What? Oh no!
You know,
you
so
gotta
used to a
love
different type of
players.
character.
You gotta love players who make bold choices. You know,
Yes.
it makes for an
make bold
interesting
choices.
story.
Sometimes they do not work out, but you know what? They tell a good story. That is 100% it.
It pushes Thevana into this weird space in her brain meat. And she starts having a vision, I suppose would be the best way of saying it, possibly, of a bunch of people moving into a mine, and they have all of these small, like, infant children that are all crying. And it is spoken by what seems to be some kind of leader. These are the seeds of...
This is the first time we saw that.
Yeah. They will be the seed of the world, and we will scatter them across the lands. Thevana gets the impression that this isn't necessarily a vision, but a memory. For Thevana is with a nomadic group before we meet her, and doesn't necessarily know a lot about her upbringing or what this mark is of theirs. Start seeing a little bit of that, and Theo, of course, after you come to, definitely gifts you with said rock.
Which has continued to plague Shauna.
It has.
Yep.
It has its own sort of magic to it, and seems to come up at the most interesting moments of things happening.
I have a question for Shauna. Has there ever been a time where I've used it that you expected me to?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there's been plenty of them you went, okay.
Not necessarily at the beginning, but once I got used to when you would normally use it, then yes, I could, I would have to prepare in mind that said rock might be used for certain things. And
it does seem to detect magic. So she does use it in that way, which is pretty light, but there are obviously other properties to it that she doesn't fully understand.
So I wanted to ask you guys, I am a very big advocate for DMs using dreams and omens and visions and memories to be a part of the storytelling. What is that like for you guys as players?
It's my favorite thing. Whether it happens to me or another character, it is my favorite thing.
As a character who has all of the trauma in their backstory, I love it. It doesn't show up on my face because I'm in the brain space of the character, and it's very much, oh boy, oh no, this is so uncomfortable. But as a player, I'm living for it because it delves into all of those different facets of the character that we don't always get to see. And it's just it adds another layer to the storytelling, and I'm just here for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you want people to be in that player headspace, and there are certain times where players are a little more guarded or just introverted and wouldn't necessarily say a lot of what's going on with them. And that doesn't mean they shouldn't have time and that doesn't mean that people shouldn't know about them. Does that make sense? So,
Absolutely.
I love doing it, not necessarily specifically for those types of people, but especially for those types of characters, so that it's just a little glimpse for everyone to kind of go, this is where that character is. And it's not, I'm not trying to take the moment and say what it is for the character necessarily, but it's another opportunity for someone who would be so introspective or internal to show that part of their character without going against what the character would do, which isn't necessarily vent or open up.
I would also like to say real quick, as a player at the table, but also in a way as an audience member, especially during these earlier arcs, when having visions or omens of the future, what's going on with other characters, there have been moments, like with Cliff in particular, that I'm just sitting here going, oh, this is amazing. Oh wait, Cliff's in the scene, I should write notes. But it's so interesting as a viewer in that moment of, I'm not a part of this ain't my dream. I get caught up in it and like, but what does it all mean? It's so good. So good. Icing on the cake.
I adore foreshadowing.
So good.
And I adore
Or
making the players, the characters, the star of the show as well.
Right.
And
Yes.
and I love that.
So you are taken, the Baron, thanking you for saving his life, tells you to head to the capital, Jubilean. You go south to the capital. Yes.
Real quick, just to refresh
Yeah.
my memory, because it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Isn't the Baron a actual like blood relation to the
Yes.
Empress?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Actually, at this point, don't necessarily get that from what
That's
he has
right.
said. But once you're in Jubilean, absolutely, this starts to become a little more fleshed out of like, oh,
That's
these people in charge, you know? So,
We meet Empress Morning Flail.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Not her real name.
you meet the Empress. And, you also are able to see a bunch of Jubilean. One of my favorite things, is, it was after a session. I don't even think it was like directly after a session. I think it was like a few days later or whatever. I was talking to Travis, and just one of the times, and Travis goes, do you know what my favorite thing is? And I'm like, what's up? And he goes, my favorite thing is going to a new city so that I can just see all the new stuff in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the thing I'm always looking forward to. And
New
that
city,
just like,
who dis?
yeah, that just warmed my little Slytherin heart, and I was like, aw. So obviously you make it into Jubilean, and sightsee a bit before having to deal with the Empress.
Costuming.
There was costuming to be had because
We
you
all
were
get
gala.
special garb that is made for us.
Mm-hmm.
And even McCree in the artwork that we show McCree
Yeah.
in is
Yes,
gala
he got to wear a little cute little vest.
He's so
Um,
cute.
He was definitely able to come to the gala. You were able to meet the Empress by herself,
Empress Nevero.
and you kind of gain a sort of not only a rapport, but this insight that this is a woman who, as was said earlier, isn't just a soft-handed noble who hasn't lifted a finger before.
Now we call her Empress Morning Flail for a reason.
Yeah. She isn't afraid to get down and dirty, and we find out that it's her family that runs Midlendell mostly. The Empress being the first offspring of Onas Nevero, who established said country.
And they're all elves, so they're hundreds of years old.
Exactly. So it takes a long time before it gets to the next person. But we know that the Baron is like a cousin to her. That Onas's first wife was in that catacomb in Zayang.
Right.
And it makes a bigger impact to know that everybody here, all of the towns, the main cities within Midlendell, are run by this family, and have some kind of family blood, whether it's by marriage or otherwise. But being very different, Riverine has a baroness, but that baroness chooses to have a council of people, which is why we have Councilwoman Nyaris within Riverine. But is the only town that does that, really. So you spend some time within Juliane, you are able to go to a gala, and wouldn't you know it, nothing ever bad happens at a gala.
No, it was just fun laughter the whole time.
Yep.
It's a great time.
No, we see that there are quite a few people here who are either sycophants, who are helping great people, who are causing issues possibly. And I remember the first part of the gala, everybody going, I don't know who I'm supposed to trust here. I don't know who's going to be helping this situation, if there's something that's going to go down. You know, trying to suss out through all of these people within the gala. And we naturally find that there is going to be an assassination attempt.
Naturally.
On Empress. And
it was right after I sang my song that she commissioned me to do.
It's true. How dare. How very
dare. Come on, guys.
The audacity!
But we find out that there are these groups of people that are trying to take out the main head of this country.
And we save her. I'm like,
yes,
Your Grace, come here. I play the thing on my lute to make invisible, the invisibility spell. I'm like, touch my lute. She goes invisible and is able to beat feet out of there.
We find out that some of these people are with a very anarchic group who aren't from this area, but do not like government in any way, and wants to take down the Empress. Found this to be a perfect time, a great time to do it. And this group is called the Idraeth. We also find out that when they're there and they start going after the Empress, they also start going after Kara. As Kara once was a member of the Idraeth. This became a big, like, mind-blowing moment as these very almost Mad Max sort of characters with desert-like clothing over them and a bunch of eyebrow piercings start coming after Kara. There was a moment of like, oh no, Kara's going down!
The dice were not on my side.
There were a few people that helped, a few NPCs that helped the situation that you found out later were a part of a different faction that was helping. But of course, the Idraeth, and all of the people trying to assassinate the Empress are taken care of. Yeah. Yeah. So,
A lot happened in those couple sessions, let's just say.
oh my
A
god.
whole
A
lot.
lot.
The gala was so fun. It was definitely one of those moments I was like, this is my jam, because, you know, who doesn't love to dress up in fancy clothing and beat the crap out of people?
Ruined my beautiful dress.
My
I
favorite
was gonna wear
thing,
that all the time.
Hey, my pants are
Perfect
still
now.
solid.
right? It's perfect now. If it's
Beautiful.
stained and ripped, and it's perfect.
Urgh, I can't perform in it that way.
She, the Empress thanks you, of course. We find out that one of the people is a part of the secret blade.
Yeah,
Who is kind
Yes,
of this
yeah.
like
the secret
it's
blades.
kind of like the CIA of or
Kinda,
the
yeah.
FBI of
or
Bit of
the
both,
MI6.
the MI6.
Yeah,
That's more like of Midlendell. And you make a very big bond there. But also you're in the capital city. You start looking around. There's fighting pits to be had. There are different sections and districts to this town.
When do we
and
learn about the Legion of Shadows?
That was in Zayn.
in Zion?
Oh, we didn't talk about
Yeah.
them.
You had saved
Because Ivana had a cool hat and she had to give it up.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Gave it
It's
to,
all
gave it to a
coming back, y'all.
halfling who was a part of a group called the Legion of Shadows, who made them come after you.
Yep.
And
For
instead,
every MI6, you get an equal mafia.
exactly.
Yep.
But instead, you send Lubast, this halfling, away to possibly go join the Adread.
What's up, y'all?
But
Go join some
when she
terrorists.
leaves,
it'll be fine.
when she
It'll be
leaves,
fine.
she was supposed to tell her superiors that she dealt with us. So
Yes.
Right.
we send her away with fake versions of things that look like they belong to us, like
Yes. Hence the
a
hat.
ruined loot. Yeah, exactly. Things that are not ours, but look like they could be ours. So she could
Right.
say, "Look, I did away with them," and she wouldn't get punished by her superiors.
Also, one other thing I forgot to mention, in Zion, when you're out investigating the mists and things and finding remnants of people, we see the fingers of people come up out of the ground.
Yes.
Oh my
And
God, you're right.
Liv-
Right. I totally forgot about
Liv
this.
goes over to touch.
That's why Connor and I earlier were doing this.
Oh, my bad. I thought it was
I
like,
mean, you kind of referenced it when we said it got into the soil. So.
yeah. But he touched those
Horror mystery.
fingers, the remnants of these people, the corpses, and one of his curses that looks like a tattoo on his person changes and looks different for the first time. Freaks him out so hard. So much so that when they were in Juliane, he goes to a temple and speaks with Matilda. And Matilda is a well-known curse breaker in the area, and tries to get counsel from her. And she comes to the theory that possibly these curses that have been placed upon you by your deity could possibly be used as blessings. And that maybe what you're doing is starting to find the trigger to activate this into being more of a blessing than a curse. It was my favorite moment because Travis sat there for 5 seconds just full on absolutely stunned. And I watched his face go through everything and go, I have this many, what could they all mean? What does this go, how, if I unlock this, how do I unlock this? What is the, in like,
It's
all
the
of the math,
mind
that math meme
conspiracy.
thing.
Yes, it was
happened.
swirling.
It was so brilliant. So you were able to speak with Matilda about these curses becoming blessings, which is really a fun thing that I've been sitting on for quite some time. We also, within this area, head to Dwarven Town.
Yeah.
Jubileane. It's a district in Jubileane, because you know how it is. And we meet two Welf, Dwarven and Elf, brothers at one of the towns there, all of that. And they kind of help out the group a little bit. Specifically, one of the brothers, the older one, his name is Westlar. And there he is.
Yeah.
And,
It's when I fell in love with dwarfs.
Yep.
right?
That art. Oof.
Boom. And he's just kind of a kind-hearted blacksmith worker. Him and his brother, his younger brother, seems to get in a little more trouble than he does. Yukdrir is very mischievous and a little confrontational and causes a lot of problems, like little brothers do. However, while you're in Dwarven Town, one of your purses gets snatched and pulled away. And the only person who sees this happen is McCree. And immediately goes after this thief. So you guys are having a great time in a bar in Dwarven Town with these dwarfs, and you look around and McCree's gone. Just gone. Everybody panics because McCree's gone.
Who's our bestest boy?
But we find out that he was just going after a thief for doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Also,
he's very loyal, good and boy.
Also, there is something else that's within not Dwarven Town, in Jubileane, that we absolutely have to talk about.
Oh, you freaking
And
know it.
Westlar comes to help you with it. There is a place in Jubileane called the Dueling Blades.
Heck yeah.
Naturally, you think, okay, this is like a fighting pit thing. Yeah, I got
Oh
it.
yeah, 100%.
You come in to the Dueling Blades, and it's actually more like Iron Chef.
Yeah.
Meats chopped, meats like
Combat.
like
American Gladiator.
Yes.
Gladiator, yeah. Where there are
So
there are
cool.
separate rooms to this area that everybody can see, that hide ingredients that you have to use within your dish that has to be done amazingly, and there's so much to this. There's definitely scoring and points to be had and all of
We
that
have to go back,
within.
The mechanics that you created for that, Shauna.
Thank you.
So
Thank
fun.
you.
And the fact that you realize that this group loves food and cooking and stuff, and so you created an encounter to fit that, because it's tended to become important to our party.
Yeah.
So thank
Right.
you.
You're
So
welcome.
fun.
Dueling Blades is a fantastic, fun thing. I hope you guys go back.
Oh, we have to go
But
back.
we have to. We have to. I need my name on that wall.
Yep.
Gosh darn it. Like
It
I
was
will
such-
do
it
again.
was
I
such
will
a-
study up for that session. Gosh darn it.
It was
Yeah.
such a study of also like watching Shauna think on her feet when certain puzzles were intended for certain people, and
Oh yeah.
we all went
Uh-huh.
the opposite directions. And so and you know, as players, you're trying to stay true to your characters, so sometimes you can, you know, you figure it out and you're like trying to figure out, how can my character
Yes.
tell this.
You got Savannah doing the logic puzzle.
Yeah, and
I loved
and there's
that.
also
That was great.
For me, it's very much a when I play Thavana, I very much kind of shut off a lot of that part of my brain, intentionally, because as much as for 90% of the other characters I play in any other game, I am very cerebral. I'm very that. I enjoy not having to be that for Thavana and being this simple logic. She's not stupid. She's just doesn't see things the same way, and so she doesn't see the puzzles, but she also kind of sees that it's a game. So it was a lot of enjoyment of watching us all kind of like and go, wait, I don't think this one was meant for me. And
Squishy
then also-
Bard went over into Combatville.
Oh yeah,
Unbeknownst.
yeah.
And
There was a lot of.
Oh my
I will say
God.
there was a lot of. I remember at the like for the first half of it, a lot of my character running back and forth between different areas, going, "Hang on, okay, let me put that on top for you. You good? Okay, hang on.
I got the berries.
It was just a lot of really silliness.
I loved the end of, like, it's getting down to the last few minutes. You guys are plating, everything's going on, and there's nothing for the Barbarian and McCree to do at all. And it was so what they did was literally there was a guy in the audience watching that started like bad mouthing or heckling the group.
He wasn't cruel. He wasn't funny
mean.
about it.
No, but it was shit talking. Shit talking was shit talking.
And it was basically like, we're gonna plate this thing and have like these beautiful bread rolls from Cliff and all of these things that are showing up.
Oh, now I know why that's so special.
Oh my god! Connections, y'all.
We're gonna have all of this plating, but also there's a stand-up comedian act going on with a barbarian and an owl bear, and they're throwing rice at this one guy.
And an extra package of rice, because there was a whole bunch of rice everywhere, and
It
it
was
just
so good.
It became just chaos.
We gotta go back, y'all.
You guys did fairly well within.
Oh yeah.
And you did earn.
Especially with it not knowing almost anything of what we were walking
Yes.
into. Like, we fully went there
Expecting a
thinking
fight.
it was a fighting club that, you know, at least Thavana could earn a little money, because it's in her brain that's the only way she can get
Not at
money for the
all.
group.
Nope.
And then it was not. And it was very much, there was a moment of disappointment. And then I was just like, but I am enjoying what this is about to be so much that I was just like, and
so
Thavana's so go with the flow. She was like, all right, cool. What are we
You
doing?
guys get the reward of
Yes.
a bunch of teas, very special kind of teas, and some
And
spices.
I thought we got the better reward.
I agree.
There was some like actual like interesting knives as well that you weren't able to acquire at this time, but you definitely got these teas and spices. And the Empress calls you back and says, "Listen, we got a little more information, and I would love to hire you to do one of these two things for me. I can send the Secret Blades or whomever to do the other thing that you don't choose, but I need you to choose. Are you gonna go southwest and figure out why the Adreath did what they did, and try to, you know, come into our capital city and take it over? Or are you going to head to Moldor Mines, as there is some kind of weird activity that's going on there?"
And we remembered that it was close to Alsheen, where the kobold and that blue figure was when Alsheen got sacked at the very beginning of the campaign.
Right.
Yes,
Mhm.
and there
So-
was someone with a blue cloak that was a mage that was a part of the assassination, which led us to the Moldor Mines.
So, you needed to make a decision. You decided to go to the mines instead of to try to take on the Adreath at this moment.
Bad idea, y'all. Bad idea.
Yeah, later. Let's level up a bit before we try
Right?
and take on the Adreath.
You move north up to the Moldor mines, stopping in Ziane, being able to talk to Theo. Had Theo look at some of the teas and spices and things you just got, finding out that one of the teas allows you to have
Detect thoughts.
detect thoughts. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very interesting sort of thing that just got sort of sprinkled in there. And as you move to the Moldor mines, you hit into the front of the mines, immediately dealing with this like boulder-like creature called a Galabdor. And this encounter, I bring it up very specifically because you start in on this Galabdor and find out and realize that like it's kind of confused that you're hurting it.
It was reacting like in a oh please
It was
don't
reacting
way.
like a wait sort of thing. Granted, it
got
did go down to hit into you first, but
we came into
after
its territory.
starting
No.
to fight it, you started realizing, wait, this Galabdor's not reacting the way we would think.
I got so emotional about it as a player that I had to call a pause. I was sobbing. I'm like, how are we hurting this innocent, childlike creature that doesn't want to be hit, doesn't want to be attacked?
And a giant, hill giant, rock giant, comes around and, you know, moves the Galabdor out. Luckily, Thévana speaks giant and was able to talk with said friend and describe what happened and that they were so sorry. But I watched you as a party immediately make a decision as a group to be like, we didn't have all the information for this, and it was starting to go really bad. And we could have done something that I don't think we would forgive ourselves for.
That's when we became the group that doesn't just run in and murder hobo.
Right. So it was very interesting, and it's a very pivotal moment, I think, with
I would
this
agree.
group, with the Illuminated.
That being said, there's still a lot of combat.
Yes. You can convince the giant to that you're coming into the mines to figure out what's going on. That there's something wrong. The giant agrees. There's something wrong going on inside. Can't get in there. But if anything tries to come out that isn't you, it'll try and stop.
Smash.
Yeah.
No, not smash. Grab. So that we can talk to them, because that
Figure
was
out what's
the
going
main
on.
lesson we had learned
Yep.
in that fight.
Yes. There's a whole bunch of things that happen within the mines because you gotta have a mine arc. It's just
You
how
gotta have a dungeon crawl. It's Dungeons
Yeah,
and Dragons. You
I
gotta
say
have a dungeon
the-
crawl.
The negotiating with the giant was very entertaining for me to watch. Watching Joe, because
Yes.
Joe is very much the bard,
Yes.
and
The
to have
talker.
someone else in the only person in the group who could be in control of the conversation, who maybe, especially fairly so in GS's mind, is not the best choice. I know Joe knows me, Amanda, is perfectly skilled enough to negotiate.
Yeah.
But for watching Joe just like, what's happened? And in character constantly saying to Thévana, and Thévana's just having a chill conversation with this giant.
Yeah.
Because not only does she understand the language, she kind of gets the mentality as well.
Right, and GS is like,
so
I'm so out of my depth, what is going on?
For me, one of the funniest moments of telling of GS's character and how you play GS was when you cast comprehend languages.
Yeah, it was comprehend
so that tongues,
tongues.
so that you could be involved. Yeah, it was tongues, so that you could be involved in the conversation.
I don't think I have tongues. It was comprehend languages, so I could GS could understand what was being said, but she couldn't respond back.
But then it became also GS trying to tell Thavana what to say, and Thavana kept going, "I got it, I got it."
Yeah.
And this
like, stop it! Don't explain to me.
This snowballs later on into. For me, I didn't realize it till we're talking about it here. That I was like, oh, that started back then.
It started back then.
I didn't think about it until we were just talking about it right now, and I went, oh crud, that bit started back then.
Mm-hmm.
Fight a bunch of things. There was rust monsters. There's classic like dungeon.
Dungeon crawl.
Yeah, encounters that you have. You also fight a thing called the Lonely.
Oh, I remember that.
It lured you in by saying that it, oh my gosh, I'm so lonely, and you're hearing this very nice sounding person who's crying out for help, and it's actually this abomination.
Don't trust cries for help, guys. Don't trust them.
That really did a number on quite a few of you, and because. I remember very specifically because of the way Cliff had been trying to reach out to Torm to figure out about these curses becoming blessings, and Torm isn't talking to him.
Right.
There's no communication there, and this character of the Lonely coming in, I remember it within this moment, within this arc, every single person had a moment of feeling lonely. So it was a great time to place this encounter, and it ended up really damaging a few of the characters physically, but it left with Cliff so angry about that encounter and everything leading up to it that the sash that is his connection to Torm, he decides to just throw on the ground and leave there.
That's his holy symbol. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And this very discordant moment of feeling lonely because your deity isn't speaking to you specifically was very interesting. The party not knowing how big of a deal throwing a thing on, but also knowing that, hey, this is our healer, I know you need this thing, grabbed the sash and was able to talk with him and reconcile and try and get him to at least come to a point where he would try to use it again. There were many different rooms within the mines. You dealt with one that had a bunch of sigils on the ground. That
you did a whole fog of war thing. We couldn't see anything until we got there. It was so fun, so challenging.
There's a room that had sigils that lit up, and you guys found out that if you were to like step into the light, that it actually was helpful, not hindering. And you figured it out because, the way D&D parties go, half of the D&D party is going, wait, but if we do that, what if this happens? But what if this happens? Oh my God,
it's so true.
What's the consequence here? And the other half of the D&D party, i.e. Thavana and McCree,
I was controlling McCree at the time. I would like at least a tiny bit of credit for this.
Yes. Decide to just step into those spaces and see what it does, and finding out that as soon as everybody got into place within these sigils, it actually fortified you and made you more of it was almost a symbol of family.
Didn't it also like actually create a magical bond between all of us, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
There was an actual magical bond that happened within.
And Devana had this moment where she was like, "This is my family," because the giant was like pointing to Devana and saying, "Your family is in there." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And it like pointed at the mark on her arm. And she's like, "I don't know, whatever's in here, because it has the same mark on their arm. It's not my family. It's not the people that I grew up with. It's not the people of the Gar.
Yeah.
It's these people that have the same kind of mark on their arm. That's not my family. That doesn't matter." And then this moment where after we had the lonely and everything, and it's like, no, this is my family. And it was such a beautiful moment from Devana, and then also from McCree, and it was just great for all of us.
Yeah. Little did you know that that room, it was also foreshadowing for what was to come. And what was to come was you coming into a cavern area within the Moldor Mines, seeing a ritual being made in that moment. So within this cavern, you find these people, some of their own accord, some not, placed upon sigils, and it's spellcaster across the way. You do talk to said spellcaster, try and reason with them at first, because that is now a thing that you want to hold on to. And it does not seem like it's going well. The chanting continues.
Draconic, if I remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I cast that comprehend languages again to understand what they were saying.
This character across the way, the main spellcaster, is wearing a blue book.
Yeah.
We find out very quickly that this group, or at least that person, is connected to the Cobalt Ambush on Alshi, all those many months ago. You try to help some of the people who are unconscious out of these areas, still trying to stop this person from the ritual that they are making happen. And Devana moves in and across one of these sigils, not realizing that because of the mark she has,
Oh, it's
it
such a
helps
hard thing to do as a
open
player.
and activate the ritual.
That was such a hard thing to do as a player, because as a player, I know not to do that kind of crud.
Right.
But it was like, it was such a moment of,
and
that's not what Devana would be paying
I
attention to
have
right
to
now.
stop this person. You do stop them, but not before the sigil activates and opens up a portal of some kind, and 9 reptilian creatures of all different colors come out of it, shoot forth up into the cavern ceiling, breaking through and scattering across the sky.
Flying away on wings.
Flying away on wings. It happens in a flash, but
Wonder what they could be.
take a hold of the spellcaster and some of the people that were helping them, and the people that were just kind of being placed there. And you notice that every single person that was in and used for this ritual had a mark.
But as we're racing out, trying to get all of them out, as the place is collapsing,
Yes.
we're all gonna die. And there's a person still behind, but they are awake, they are alive, they can move of their own accord, and we're all like, go, 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 go. McCree's going, Devana's going, Kara's going, GS is going, and Cliff stays back like, I gotta make sure everybody gets out. And everyone's like, Cliff, move your ass out! You can't help people if you're dead. And he's like, oh, no, I'm gonna help this one person. GS freaking like yells at him and goes back, Cliff, you get your ass out. Oh no, I'm gonna save him. Finally, everyone gets out. Cliff by the skin of his teeth. And GS runs over to Cliff, smacks him hard on the face and says, don't you ever do that again. And pulls him in and kisses him.
Yes. Yes. Lot.
Lot! It was wild, and that was where we ended that session. We were just like,
Yeah.
So, you were able to talk to this group later. Some of them tried to run out in front of you and beat feet.
Mm-hmm.
But our giant friend happened to stop them. You find out that this group calls themselves the Marked Ones. And they have recently been getting sort of visions and polls. And get more visions and things about who they were or are when they are around each other. If they are, the longer they stay with each other, the more they start to learn. We have a huge discussion of now these prisoners, magic manacles, are taken into your custody. What do we do with them? Connor, what's up?
Something I would like to say during that entire situation of like, what do we do with them? This was one of the moments that our travel, our watches, was so integral and important to us as a party, because that was a moment that we agreed that one of the Illuminated Outcasts would be up on watch, but as a sense of fairness, one of the Marked Ones would be up on watch. And there were some really amazing and interesting aspects of roleplay and storytelling that happened for each of our characters and who we got paired up with. And it all happened with a roll of dice, and it happened magically and perfectly.
Seriously.
The dice are a player at the game, y'all.
They really are.
Really are.
It was wonderful conversations about moral ambiguity and shades of gray, and how for some people it's crystal clear. You do this, you don't do this. And for other people, it's a lot more dependent upon the circumstance. And GS was starting to not exactly side. Yeah, there was. GS was starting to not exactly side with this leader in the blue cloak, not at all, because she empathized with. And for the people in the Illuminated Outcast, it was clear cut. They're bad. They go for justice. Yes. GS was not like, we just had this whole moment with the Galabdur. We can't make these split decisions. There's so much more at stake here. And there was a big moral clash between GS and almost the rest of the party for a while. And it was a little rough, especially after this moment where it's like, we're family. And it was like, ooh, but this family's being strained and tested right away.
There were those watches where both were up, and GS happened to be with that cloaked figure. Her name is Duriana, and she admits that she was the cloaked figure helping the kobolds. She wants this sigil to be broken and opened so that whatever just came through it could live in Crunera again.
Because this world was theirs,
'Cause
and they
this
were
world
locked
was
away.
theirs.
It's not fair for them to be kept prisoners.
Right. Thevana gets to have a moment with Orem.
Yes, and the dreams are wild, man.
And the dreams are wild. Has the same marking, not just a mark, but the same marking that Thevana has. They get to kind of learn from each other and talk to each other about why he stays with this group when Orem seems to be like not necessarily all about it. And once finding out about what they were doing was like, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Clearly the man has the most amount of sense.
Which is why he was one of the ones unconscious and like forced there. But
not right.
Ivana learns a few new things about what her mark can do. And everybody decides that this is going to be that especially Doriana needs to pay for what she did to the people of Alsheen. And man, have I never seen Cliff get so adamant about a justice that needs to be made. And you bring them back up to Alsheen. They're kept prisoner, just Doriana. Kept prisoner, as the other ones weren't there for what happened in Alsheen and shouldn't necessarily be punished for that. But they care for Doriana and want possibly whatever consequence needs to happen, but they feel she is family as well. And that's another connection to finding out more about who they are as a person or who they were that they don't want to let go. So they come along as well. You have some time in Alsheen. You
waiting
have
for the trial
a vision,
and stuff. Yeah.
Orem and Thevana on different times, sleeping wise, have a vision of
The use of the rock, by the way, that stupid rock that we got
use of the
in
rock.
Offertory.
Not stupid.
Not stupid.
Very beneficial.
Yes.
Rock.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you. I
fair.
like this rock.
this
We all
ridiculous
do.
rock.
Ridiculous. That was the word I was looking for.
I love it. Kara has a McCree.
Yes.
GS has a lute. Cliff has a Torm, and Thevana has a rock.
Yep.
Yes. You're able to have this dream, and Orem dreams of one of these beasts that came out and sees them flying away in like a southern direction.
Wasn't it like southwest or something like that?
Sees
Or
a few
southeast.
that come straight up and then straight down, so very close to where you're at. Some move off and scatter among the winds. Thevana has a dream of one of these beasts being around a city to the east, and it's the first time that we get to see this massive silver claw come out, and we realize, of course, yes, these are dragons. And Thevana goes and tries to, talk to this dragon, see what's up, and the dragon's like, there is something within this city that is mine. It is mine alone, and I'm going to take it. And she goes, well, hang on. Let's maybe think things through. And tries to talk, not talk this dragon out of what it's doing, but maybe give a little more time. And of course, this is one of those moments that you get to as a DM where you're like, cool, sure, whatever. Roll a persuasion check, and it's a nat 20. And
I
naturally
don't roll them
this
all that often, but when I do, it's the
They're
things
pretty
that do not make
important.
sense that I'm good at.
it's
I
great.
think I've rolled
it's
two
And-
of them now for persuasion.
great. This and this dragon goes, fine. If you don't want me to raise this city and get what's rightfully mine, you're gonna get it for me. You can have your group or whatever. You're gonna get it for me. And it's literally in the middle of this. We're trying to have a trial for a lady who, killed some halflings early on. No, we'll get right on that. Write it on the to-do list.
We gotta get on it soon, or this dragon's going to raise an entire town full of innocent
Exactly.
people because someone made a decision to keep something in there that belongs to a dragon.
Yes.
Not a town, a whole fracking city.
Yeah.
A whole
A
city.
pretty
yeah.
major city.
A pretty
yeah.
major city.
Yeah.
All of Los Angeles razed to the ground.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of
Mhm.
that's close. Yeah.
Them's the stakes, y'all.
Are we talking about the other two people that we met in Alsheen?
We're gonna yeah.
Yeah.
We while waiting for the Baroness of Merlesh to come down to Alsheen, because she's technically in charge of Alsheen, to sentence Duriana in whatever way. She is kept imprisoned.
I hide my loot.
We find out that there is some weird thing off in the woods that is causing some issues, and of course this group is like, we're on it, we got it for you, handyman.
Because little Alsheen, they're not equipped for this.
Exactly.
They keep getting
And-
raided by kobolds, and they don't know how to fight back.
Right? They're just trying to make their house. They're trying to build up those houses still. It's only been a few months. So, you go off and fight this monster in the woods that is so grotesque, but is kind of adorably
Just wants a friend.
grotesque. and
It's a
wants
gray
friend.
render. He just wants a friend.
So you find this gray render, and let it imprint itself basically
On the
On the
Alsheen mayor.
And the mayor's like, hey, I've got a bodyguard for this little town of Alsheen now. And the
Yeah.
gray render's like, hey, I've got myself a master now.
Exactly.
And
You just
town
want
of
someone
Alsheen
to
and you
protect.
guys were like, let's call him Kyle.
Now
Yep.
Alsheen has a Kyle.
So there's a Kyle that is now taking care of the
Yes.
area of
Mhm.
Alsheen. But while this is happening, someone comes out of the forest who's been watching. A humanoid figure person that comes through and is like, hey, watch what you did. That's pretty sick. I want
Like bronze
You seem like
skin,
you've got a
brass
lot of-
colored skin.
Yes. It seems like you've got a lot of stories to tell. I would love them. And it becomes very apparent to the group that this is one of those reptilian creatures that just burst out.
In a human guise.
This human guised dragon, named Fruiuna, is asking for tales from you. You're like, yeah, okay. Also asks, could you ask around and see what the vibe is when it comes to dragons? Because I don't want to walk in and cause a problem if there's going to be problems. I'm not looking for that.
And so we figure out that was the creature that went straight up and then came right back down.
Exactly. And probably the creature that let loose this gray render just to see
Just
would
to see what we would do.
story.
If we would
Well, he kinda
destroy
said
this
that.
creature or not.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
kind of said he was trying to test the waters of how
Yes.
people. Sadly,
Right.
I don't know that our group is the norm among.
And after our time with the Galabdur, we're like, we're not just gonna attack to
Waters.
kill as a first
So-
resort.
The Baroness of Merlish comes down.
Wait, I have to say one of my favorite moments, Joe, was you going, because there was a moment where there's the Galvador was kind of, or not the Galvador, the Grey
Render.
Grey Render.
Yeah, Grinder was kind of chilling with Thavana, and there was this conversation of like, I don't know, just being like, do you want it to imprint on you? Not really.
Yeah.
Well, then get away from it.
That's right.
Like, but I
If I
can't
get away
protect
from
you
it,
if I'm not close to it.
Yeah.
There was conflict of like, we can't keep adopting all these creatures.
No, we already have an owlbear. We
Right?
can't also have a Grey Render.
I mean,
So Baroness of Merlesh comes down and here's everything. Sentences Duriana to 7 months imprisonment within Merlesh. And after those 7 months, it would then be like a case by case thing. See how they've behaved and whatnot.
Like a parole type of situation.
Exactly. Parole. So we'll see what happens with that. My question for you guys, there's been a lot, especially within Zayn and then Jubliane, and then now with these marked ones and whatnot, even now having dragons. Who have been some of your favorite NPCs?
The Brothers Brownleaf.
Mm-hmm.
Gastromley.
Stromley,
yes,
yeah.
Gastromley.
Because I didn't get to
In
meet
Zayn,
the brothers
right?
Brownleaf.
No,
I
you
didn't get to
didn't.
meet the brothers Brownleaf, but I've heard.
Correct.
What was the couple? There was the couple.
Hob and Barella. And
Hob and
They
Barella!
were, they were very sweet.
They run the Airbnb.
The Beam and Berry, yeah.
I mean, we're all gonna say McCree if we really have to.
McCree is
Sure,
not an
McCree
NPC. McCree is a sidekick / DMPC. So
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
we want NPC though, right now.
I love Westlar.
Oh yes.
Honestly, I love the Silver Dragon, which
Me too.
have only had in this recap this much, but
This much so far,
Yeah.
yeah.
spoiler, there's a lot more with that, and that that interaction at the end of all that for me and for Thavana was really big. And so, but also just watching that kind of connection from this honestly quite hostile to this very attitude of, you really don't get what you are. And I think that's the first time she actually kind of questioned their second conversation, which I don't think we've gotten to, but which is one of the
Not yet,
moments
yeah.
of
I love that
brain fog of
Yes.
GS trying to talk to
That was
Thavana's
so
brain.
weird. Well, we're gonna talk all
We'll
about
get to that in a
Yeah.
minute.
Mhm.
But yeah, that the Silver Dragon is rapidly for me moved up really high for but that's personally for Thavana.
Yeah. What
Travis,
about you,
what about you?
Travis?
For a long time, it was Headmaster Thiel. Now I'm gonna say a name that
It was
doesn't
fun.
sound familiar to any audience members yet, but you'll get there, and that's Jasper. Jasper's become my favorite very quickly.
Jasper! I love Jasper.
Jasper. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll get to
Jasper
that.
easily. Yeah, that's down the road.
like
I'm
mine
surprised.
Jean and Alula.
John and
Yeah, Sean.
Connor.
my personal favorite is one that we will get into in the next arc.
Yeah.
But thus far is a NPC, like from Kara's perspective, her most memorable NPC
Yeah.
and favorite NPC is the centaur that I don't have those notes in front of me, but the centaur that helped her teach how to control wild shaping.
In
Oh
Optus.
yeah,
In
Yeah.
Optus, in Zayn.
Druid.
Yeah.
Wild shape is a weird juxtaposition, and what was their name again? If
You're
you
gonna
can
make me look it up
remember.
right now.
You don't need to, but
Get back to you.
Yeah.
We'll get back
I'll
to
get back to you.
But the centaur
I know who
druid
you're talking about,
teacher that Kara met at Oplatore would be her personal favorite. My personal favorite is one that we will meet in Arc 6.
Yeah. Who? You can say the name.
Mocklin.
Okay. Very cool.
Is that the little kid?
The
No.
little halfling boy.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
in Remest, yes.
You mean Melville?
Melville,
Melville.
I'm sorry, not
Melville?
Mocklin.
It's like,
Okay.
where's Mocklin from?
Like
I I don't know why.
Melville.
The name sounds familiar. It's from somewhere.
I know it does
with
too.
M.
I know. I'm thinking it sounds familiar too, but I'm like, oh, I don't know where that's from.
I'm loving all the NPCs, and I can't wait for you guys to see more of them.
Right.
But yeah, let's move on to Arc 6. So, with this in mind, Doriana being sentenced to 7 months imprisonment in Merlesh, you have a dragon asking for favors. You have a different dragon wanting to cause shenanigans as well as have stories told to them, as well as, you know, a general vibe check on, you know, how do people nowadays think dragons? Or are we a yay or are we a nay? With all of this in mind, while you were waiting for the Baroness, I almost forgot, while you were waiting for the Baroness to come down for this sentencing, you were able to talk with Doriana. GS went and did that. You, the rest of you had went to the Halfling Tavern in town and saw a young woman kind of being bullied at one point by local people. You know how small towns are. And things kind of got split up and broken up and solved by Cliff. And we noticed that his tattoo that he has on the back of his neck, something that keeps him from speaking eloquently and helpfully, was actually the twisted tongue was untwisted, and he was able to help out a few people. How the twisted tongue became untwisted is you know, kind of up in the air. We're not exactly sure, but we have theories on what
This
that
is
could
where
be.
Thavana's offers to start a fight with someone just to let Cliff break it up
Pretty much.
comes from, because she does it frequently.
And he's like, oh, no, you don't have to do that. And every time GS like looks at the back of his, nah, it didn't work.
Right. Also, same night, after this scuffle was taken care of, Cliff went out into the night, into the street right in front of the tavern, met up with GS, and
Who was so emotionally distraught,
They're-
like for the
they're
first
both
time.
very- yeah.
Yeah. For the first
They're both
time,
very-
GS is completely unsure of what she should be doing socially. She was
Right.
always so good at like inspiring people and help leading people to a cause, rallying them or whatever. And this is the first time that she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know if her words are worth anything and if someone else's words are getting to her more. She's
Right.
starting to like doubt herself a little bit.
Yeah. And through this, finding this sort of awkward little meet cute in the street, feeling a little awkward, one of Cliff's curses reared its ugly head, or should I say butt, and caused him to, well, honestly, caused him to have a little bit of gas in the situation and literally, I think it was almost at the exact same time, there was this moment of, I like you, should we kiss? Well, we kissed before, but that was when you were mad at me.
That was
kind
like
of
a
thing.
high stress situation, and this is like a real intimate moment
Yes.
where they're helping each other through difficult situations. And,
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of right at the same time of, should we, I don't know, this is a little awkward, very cute, romantic moment. There's a little bit of flatulence that goes on, but there's also a kiss that goes on. And we see that curse turn into a blessing as well, as the two of them lift off the street, the cobblestone ground, in this cute little beautiful kiss. I loved it. I thought it was great.
It was pretty cute.
It was really cute.
It was adorable. So we're noticing,
And hopefully not smelly.
I didn't say it was, so it wasn't. There you go.
There you go. There's your
yeah.
answer.
But we're starting to notice that some of Cliff's curses are starting to show a little bit of other things that they can do. You were able to head back to Riverine and decide that probably the best thing to do would be to talk to a certain councilwoman and tell her, hey, you know the winged things that just burst out and went everywhere? That might have been us. And we might need to head to a city and steal some stuff.
We did not specifically say that. We went there. There are some shady things that we have to do, and then
True.
she's like, you talk to Jean. I'ma be in the kitchen where I can't hear anything."
Yep.
Exactly.
Plausible deniability.
True councilwoman form goes, if I hear this, I have to say something.
Plausible deniability!
Yes. I'm gonna walk out of the room and you guys can talk. You did talk to Jean, who has told you that everybody is calling this moment that happened where all of these reptilian creatures of all different colors and sizes went into the air and flew off. They're now starting to call it the Day of Colors. They're starting to get like gossip and rumors from other towns that we might have seen something in the sky. But you speak with them, you speak that you might have to go to another city. And it becomes very apparent that the city that was in Thevana's vision with this silver dragon is on the eastern side of the river, known as Remest. It's like the second biggest city. It's one of the oldest cities within Midlendell, and they seem to have some kind of gem there that this silver dragon needs. You also talk about confide in Jean and Alula about secret blades, I believe, or while you're in town. While you're in town, you see someone use a very familiar symbol, hand signal, gesture that the secret blades use, and know that one of the other council people is a part of this MI6 kind of group. And they tell you that they ask you, are you up the blade or down the blade? And we
What
start
is that?
we start to get into the metaphor of this group, the secret that's happening. And if you need information to move, if you are further down the blade and you want it to go to a higher up member of this group, it's got to go up the blade. That way things can be spoken of almost in a thieves' canty sort of way, to get information all the way up to
The
whoever
chain
is
of
at
command,
the highest
yeah.
part of this secret society. Nonetheless, you know that you're going to have to travel east, and it becomes very apparent that in order to get to Remest, we have to head over a absolutely gigantic bridge that happens to go across the river that cuts Midlendell in two, and head to a very small, cute, quaint town of Fenhaven. Fenhaven is actually the home of Cliff. So Cliff's all raring to go back. He's happy to see people. This town is jovial and welcoming, and everyone does their part and does their part so well. And every night they all gather in the Great Hall and are around a giant fire, and everybody takes turns, if they so choose, to stand up and say what they are proud of that they did that day. And the village as a whole decides, for the day, we want to reward the person that we think deserves this this reward with a wonderful sweetbread roll that is only made for that specific person.
Which is why now Cliff baking bread for the Dueling Blades cooking competition was so freaking special. We didn't know then that he came from a culture where bread making is like so special to their culture. It was so freaking cool.
The fields around Fenhaven are of like almost like a wheat kind of nature, so baking is their thing, you know. But you find out very quickly that this small village is very tight-knit and kind of pretzeled over like a sweet roll, you know. Naturally,
freaking gorgeous metaphor.
Thank you.
My heart.
Naturally, it's a D&D campaign, so of course nighttime falls and something must happen.
Gosh dang it.
Always.
The beginning of all of our problems.
And we find that there has been something coming in the night near Fenhaven. It hasn't been getting too close, but it has been abducting or taking people. And the Illuminated Outcasts decide that they're going to solve this problem. And the problem happens to be a black Abishai that has been coming and taking things from them. And as they...
Big, intelligent, bad lizard creature.
Yeah, as they have this epic battle in the fields of Fenhaven, a lot of things happen. McCree is there fighting with you guys. The Abishai speaks of someone coming, and that she will be here soon, and you need to prepare the way. Get out the way, because Tiamat is coming. That was the reaction from everybody.
Everyone!
In the middle of the combat going, I'm sorry.
What?
Freaking Tiamat!
That's but
Can we hop on that nope train to frack thatville?
Yeah.
That
So, within this battle and in this fight, learning all of this information, this Abishai starts to get really hurt, starts to move away a little bit, and GS stops it for a moment, gets hit with a lot of damage, and tries to back away and there is a major blow that happens to GS. Not because it hits her, yes it does, but it also hits the loot that she so lovingly cares for, to the point where it's damaged. It will need to be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
I felt Joe go, if I go down, it's fine. And I went, yeah, but the loot's not fine. And I watched her go, wait, no. It was a lot. You decided that you need to prepare after taking care of the Abishai, of course. You decide you need to prepare for heading down to Ramest. How are you going to find these gems, take them out of the city if they are something that is probably well known or needed or something in this city? How are you going to smuggle it out? And therefore we get into the planning stage.
So many plans. Did we
You know how
use
it
any of
goes.
them? No.
Exactly. You know how it goes.
We started to use one of them.
Yes, you make about 3 plans, and you start to use one of them, and then throw away the rest of the plans.
You know, like you do.
Like you do. But one of the things that you did decide is you're a little obvious. All of you you've got a red tiefling with you. You have a human cleric who is basically a golden retriever that makes very loud noises with her.
Clumsy everywhere he goes.
Clumsy. And, you know, you have an owl bear with you. Just kind of a really big, like, hey, notice that. So you decide to have the loot be repaired in Fenhaven, and to have McCree stay in Fenhaven to protect it if anything else were to come in, and also to not look like, you know, a very obvious troop coming in to steal something out of the city.
Harder to track us if we don't look like ourselves, because we don't have a giant owl bear with us.
Exactly.
Not exactly giant. He's a baby, but you know.
Still,
Obvious owl bear is
a baby the size of like a Saint Bernard.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
A pretty big dog size, you know. You also, on that note of disguise, try to figure out if there's any way to disguise all of them. And
I can disguise myself. That's about it.
Clever ruse starts to formulate, where there's a possibility you could dress like the Draeth, the people that were coming for the Empress.
Because they're anarchists anyway. Blame it on them.
Anyway.
Yep.
Blame them, and you have someone who's been in that group that can make sure it looks
legit.
Kara.
So, yeah. So you prepare and get a small little chain link bits to be able to possibly begin to pierce your eyebrows to make it look like you're part of the Adreath. This is the plan, of course. As you head further south, wow, we are like
Wrong vibe.
We're really pumping.
vibe.
Real
Let
quick.
Let me like this out a little. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Something I forgot to mention in the character description of Kara, she does have a scar that she covers with war paint. A lot of times over her eyebrow, where her piercing was ripped out of her face when she got kicked out.
Yes.
As we discovered later on.
Yes.
From her origin. We know this now. At this point in the story, this has been well known and established.
Right. in your last days within Fenhaven, you decide that possibly getting a little more information on what gem, what exactly do you want, Silver Dragon?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to talk to said dragon and get more information from it? Well, putting a stone to a marking that I've had since birth worked last time. So we're thinking of this. However, Kara has the idea.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry.
That some of the tea that was awarded to you within the Dueling Blades was a detect thoughts kind of tea. And it was decided that not only Devana, but GS as well, would drink this tea, hopefully be able to read thoughts, so that when Devana placed the stone on her mark, that possibly someone else could hear, possibly something else. There was a little more of people talking. We found out very quickly that having a few more people talking, or only being able to hear a partial conversation, maybe not the best idea. However,
it was interesting.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great.
Not the words I would use or Thevana would use, but okay.
But we find out from the Silver Dragon that these gems, plural, there are 3 of them, in somewhere important to the city. And they happen to be all different sizes, the smallest of which being about 4 feet tall. The smallest.
They're really big.
How you gonna get these big gems out of the city? The next thought. As you moved further down south towards Remest, able to have all of that travel time again, and then reaching this...
Without our McCree this time, and without my loot, because it's being repaired in Fenhaven.
Both staying in Fenhaven, either healing up or protecting the town.
Mm-hmm.
So you move south, and you hit Remest. It's this bustling, big city, very narrow streets, very vertical, where Jubilee Ain has some space and then kind of tapers up into almost like a cake situation of like tiers. This is vertical. There are houses stacked on houses and stacked on houses within the city of Remest, and we meet Melville, who a cute little
sweetie
chap
that we didn't trust for a second.
that you absolutely did not trust.
Just like you don't trust a door. There could be bad stuff behind that door. It could be trapped. It's just a door, you guys. No, never trust the door.
Exactly. So,
Just a good kid.
Melville just wanted to like, hey, if you pay me a few coin, you look like tourists. I'm gonna take you to the places that you'd like to go.
We paid him enough to like retain him for the whole day.
You guys,
We paid him enough to retain him for 2 years.
We
Yeah.
paid him
Be
enough
honest.
to like keep
start,
his
like,
loyalty, so he
this
doesn't
kid's
go
pockets.
telling things to people.
Basically.
You start filling this kid's pockets, and he's like, "Do you need me tomorrow?" Like, I will help
Sure.
you with as much as you need. He takes you over to a tavern where you can stay. It's a nice fancy place. It's fantastic. We head over to the a temple where Cliff meets up with a good friend of his, Davmorn. It's a childhood friend of his.
Yeah.
They get to talk. He finally gets to talk with like a friend about what's been happening to him. And
oh my gosh, because doesn't Cliff have a moment in Fenhaven at the
leaving
A little bit, yeah.
at the graveyard, right?
he goes to the graveyard where his dad had passed and sees his headstone before heading out to Ramest. But we see Davmorn. We're able to talk to him about what's been happening, but also you're talking to another cleric about relationships with deity, whatnot. Being a good friend and whatnot, and you are able to head over to a fighting pit at one point, find a guy who's fighting you and catch him cheating. Man, does Thavana not like it when people break the rules.
Not only that, but he threatened my life during that fight.
Breaking the rules was irritating. It was the verbal threats being thrown around to try and mess with her head that just kind of
Put her over
didn't
the
mess
edge.
with her head the way I think he was hoping.
So, Melville takes you guys the days to come to the Museum of Ramest. You're able to go into all sorts of different rooms within the museum, learning about a bunch of history of Midlendell, as well as finding some more information on a very specific loot.
I took a nap under a tree.
Yeah, Thavana got tired and took a nap.
I mean, she was there for most of it, and then
Yeah.
you know, her and Melville, we just decided to chill outside. It was nice.
But we found out that this loot is called the Loot of 1,000 Memories, and it's been around for quite some time.
Long time.
Kind of
It's
had
a very famous bard that had it for a while.
yes, kind of had a rapport of some kind with the bard it was with.
Yeah.
And what happened to that bard, nobody knows. And it was found many years later near Merlesh. So we know very well that this is
This is my loot. Yep. We also find like a book from the League of Shadows, don't we?
Yes, we
Yes.
do. We have yet to pull that thread, though.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But there was a
But it's
book
there.
there that you were able to just kind of nick and take along with you that you did see had League of Shadows written on the inside. You find out from Melville as well as from other people that there is a holiday coming up called the Day of Contracts. And the Day of Contracts is basically when trade workers can try and find a patron of some kind to make a contract with for the year, so that they know that they're going to be getting steady income as long as they keep bringing whatever trade they have, you know, pottery, clothing, whatever it is, art, music, to this patron first, priority one. We start scheming and thinking that maybe Day of Contracts would be a fantastic day to go. While in Ramest, we also know that GS and Cliff decide that they're gonna go to the theater together.
It
And
was
have,
so
like,
cute.
a lunch together and whatnot, which then led to, you know, Kara and Thavana every so often sort of stormtroopering in the back to check and then leaving. Oh, they look like they're on a date. Yeah, we're gonna
Fighting
step
pit?
out of that situation.
Fighting pit, cool.
Basically.
Fighting pit, yeah.
They did fighting pit, and then they also, like, it wasn't, I wouldn't exactly call it diplomacy, but it was going around talking to people and questioning things. It's like, why are we the ones who are going talking when it's GS who's good at this?
Did a good job.
You
of
did a
it, I'd like
great
to
job
say.
of it.
We got
really
a lot
great
of
job.
information.
Also,
really did.
doing a good job at what you're not necessarily good at. Thavana went to a pawn shop,
That's right.
decided to get some really cute things for everybody.
Adorable.
And
She got me like one of those little, you know, one of those little toy ukulele things. Not
like
even like a
Thavana's
real-
kind of like that grandmother you have, or that aunt who gives you crud you don't really want.
But it's like, you like this
But it's
thing.
very sweet and it's connected to what you're interested in. So you're kind of
Yes.
like, thanks. But also, this is really the crappy version of this.
right,
But
except
I appreciate that you
except
notice
for
what
a
I'm
few.
into. It was
Except
so
for a
cute.
few gifts.
except for a few gifts. There was a cloak in there
That
that
cloak was sick.
that the worker had no idea was, you know, actually fairly good. But there's also, you know, tchotchkes, things, small little
Got figurines for
and
McCree.
things.
Oh yeah, we never.
Yeah.
That didn't get brought up early on. Early on in the campaign,
Yeah.
Thavana carved little figurines for McCree of each of us so that we could kind of communicate with them and also just to play with. I had cannoned that was something she did with the little kids back home, and so it was just. And I actually
excuse
rolled
me.
halfway decent randomly on a performance check to see if I could do it, and then it was.
They were usable, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're so
Now
cute.
when we go to pawn shops, we have to look for small little figurines for.
So
the
now he
house.
has a bunch of little animals and
Yeah,
a horse
so
and buggy and
And he has names for all of us.
Uh-huh.
That's true.
He has ways that he pronounces it in Owlbear speak that I can't remember. But whenever he's doing Speak with Animals with Mom, she can understand the common equivalent for all of our names is I'm Fire, Cliff is Light, Kara is Mom,
yeah.
and then Thavana is Claw.
Claw.
Mhm.
That,
So cute.
So
that was a
I mean,
fun shop.
lots of firsts happening within Remest. You do head to that fighting pit while this date is going on. Find that that guy who was a lot of talk, and we also find a sort of excuse the parallel, I guess, Aragorn kind of figure in the corner, watching the fight, who seems to be an Earth Genasi of some kind, and we later find out that his name is Jasper.
Real nice guy.
They like Jasper so much they're like, come here, we wanna introduce you to everybody. We're gonna head back to the tavern that we're staying at to meet up with everybody in the evening. Come by. And Jasper was like, sure, cool. You meet up from your day apart, and
Man, we're still having our date. We're enjoying ourselves.
This
Oh,
is
yeah.
about when
In
the
the
awkward
room.
are they still okay? They're still doing that.
yeah.
Apparently they went upstairs according to the tavern keep, so do you mind going and get them while I entertain Jasper, Thavana?
Yeah.
We were
So-
caught kissing.
Yeah, there was now again. But as you two coming down from being upstairs, you head down to meet Jasper, and Cliff realizes he already knows Jasper. As this man was one of the people that he removed a curse from.
Specifically, Cliff took the twisting tongue from Jasper.
Yes. And we find out, he didn't know at the time, of course, but we find out that Jasper needed to be able to speak calmly and clearly and concise, which was extremely hard for him, stammering and falling over his words. Because Jasper is an ambassador to a neighboring country of Durin.
Durin, familiar name.
I'm gonna sit in my corner and be real quiet right now.
Why does Kara sit in her corner so quiet when Durin is brought up?
That's my home country, y'all.
Ah.
So we get to actually see someone who has had a curse removed from them by the curse collector, and what their life is like now. And this ambassador to Durin was able to speak with the Archduke, who lives in Ramest, and was able to make ties between the two countries. A massive help to the entire country. You confide a little bit in Jasper, saying that there is something that needs to be done by this group, and it might not be great for you to be around to witness it. Also within this, because of the favor that Cliff had done for Jasper so many years ago, Jasper wanted to open and be a patron to the Illuminated Outcasts, and specifically Cliff, for the Day of Contracts for a whole year. Cliff kind of felt a little guilty about that offer, knowing...
Really, at the end of the day, we know that we're going in to do something that could go really poorly and could mark us as the Illuminated Outcasts as enemies of the royalty here in Midlendell. So it was a real hard thing for Jasper to say, like, hey, I want to sponsor you, and I want to have your best interests at my heart and whatnot, and I want to communicate closely, and all of these, you know, lovely, awesome friendship things, when we might be actively taking his name and then disparaging it nothing more than like a couple days later. So
the offer still remained open. However, knowing that you need information from the Archduke, he helps get you in and take audience with the Archduke. We find out very quickly that within the castle where the Archduke is, within Ramest, lies 3 very big gems. They're kind of sickeningly on display within a ballroom setting as basically art pieces on a stage.
Historical
a little bit
artifacts,
Yes.
Inherited them from his father or something, who conquered all of Midlendell or this, that, or whatever,
Yes.
and
And they were
very
called
important.
fruits. The fruits
The
of Ramest.
fruits of Ramest.
As long as the fruits of Ramest were to stay here, that all of the city would flourish and be fruitful.
Not if a silver dragon decides to smash you.
Yeah, about
Not
that.
if they don't actually belong to you, and they should be repatriated. Colonizer.
Yes. because of being able to get in and talk and find out where everything is, you're able to throw half the plan away, not needing to dress as the Adreath anymore. But
moved a little
come
too fast.
Yes.
Because as it turns out, if you're buddies with a royal, you can meet other royals, and it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah. We're saving that, like, disguising ourselves as a Drea thing for a possible thing down the future that might be necessary.
So, you decide, as yourselves, it's easier to be able to get in to where you need to be. Showing up the next day, and here's the big DM going, all right, here comes the pain. We're gonna have a very big encounter, and the bard comes in and goes, you're my favorite person, natural 20. And the Archduke goes, I'm your favorite person.
For an hour.
For an hour. But an hour's enough to realize that the rock that Devana has is starting to make these gems glow. There's some kind of relationship to them. And if we, they, at least some, go down.
Well, there was her hand she was touching it with, I thought, but she's holding the rock. Yeah.
No, I think it was the mark. I think it was,
It
was the mark.
Like,
the stone glowed the closer it got, and so that's where then it was.
But
do I touch the rock? Do I touch this?
Yeah, if we do a little like boop on these things, they suddenly can get very small. Not extremely small, but small enough to be like
Carryable.
We can carry that.
It's not a 4 foot tall rock. It's like just a hefty rock instead.
Yeah. You're able to completely thwart one of my big encounters.
It wasn't just the bard rolling that amazing little thing, but everyone was on it. Like,
except for me.
Except for you, and that's what made that encounter so
Ivana and
good.
Kara were like checking all the different ways they could get in and out. Kara was mapping it all.
Yeah. There was I remember that. There was a lot of like nat 20s rolled.
And what was Cliff kept doing? No, it wasn't Cliff. It was you had Travis roll something to see whether.
Yes,
or not
you had me roll a d6 to show how many enemies were going to show up in the combat, and I consistently
and they never
won
showed
like 3
up.
times in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the
It
guard
was so cool.
supposed to come in and help. The Archduke is being attacked. They were all playing D&D over in the corner.
Wait, we left off the whole part where the dragon breathed something into Thevana, and we still don't know what that did.
That's once we got out of the city, though.
Yep.
Was it?
You haven't
No,
quite got
that
there
was in
yet.
the dream.
That's right. That was in the dream.
It was in the one where GS was in her head the entire time. I mean, I don't think anything ever came of it. It was like a blue.
Yeah.
It matched the color of the stone, I thought. I could be wrong.
Yes.
But, and it like settled in her chest, but then I don't think anything ever came of it. Did something come of it?
Not yet.
No,
Not that you
sorry.
know of.
I just realized that. I
No,
was
yeah.
like, oh yeah. Because I was thinking it happened
bits.
later, and then I was like, no, that happened because GS kept going, what's going on? What's happening in her ear while it's happening? And I was like, I don't know.
So you
Player doesn't know, character doesn't know.
take
There's
these
just-
gems out of the town. You're able to move these things out and move away. Kind of sideswiping some guards along the way. Again, just fantastic rolls in this entire session that I was like, oh.
As we leave, I don't know if this is going to be important at all.
Okay.
But GS tried the best she could to spread the rumor around to people, and she found Melville and
Melville
told him
involved.
to spread the word that the jewels or the fruits of Remest were given away because it will protect the city. Isn't our Archduke so thoughtful and wonderful? He loves us all so much because he himself said that the true jewels of Remest, the true fruits of Remest, are the people.
Yes,
So,
maybe if we can save our relationship and make him look like the good guy at the end of the day, don't
maybe.
die.
We're gonna steal your stuff, but we're gonna make it look like you did it because you love your people.
Sure.
Maybe it'll be helpful. Maybe
You-
at least his sister, the Empress, won't hate us. I don't know.
Pretty good press.
You take gems out of Remest. You're able to find off a little ways. You're able to find a man that kind of looks like a general of the guard, which kind of throws you off for a second. Who you had seen coming in, stops you off the side of the road, and is basically like, "So, got what I asked for then." And we find that our silver dragon has changed to be in some kind of humanoid form for at least a little bit. We find out that these jewels are needed because they are family. And this silver dragon wants to take them north to hopefully restore his
Dragons gotta have eggs. We just didn't know they'd be so fancy.
right. Within
This might be a good moment to remind everyone this is a homebrew world, so please do not come at us with that type of dragon can't turn into a human.
Don't even go there. You don't
Please
know.
don't go
Don't
there.
even go there.
You don't know.
Homebrew.
Only
we-
Shauna does.
Exactly. I know. So General Alduin takes these gems from you. However, an hour is a very short amount of time, and you find very quickly that the
Archduke
guard
has
is
sent
now
some
searching
guard after us. Yeah.
Yeah. It's now searching for the...
I disguise myself so I don't look like a tiefling anymore. Like it's gonna help.
Before you leave, General Alduin takes your stone, Davana, and cracks it. Not fully, but puts a crack in it. And thanks you for the work you've done along with your group. And if you wish to help with this, that this stone will help you possibly find more, or help take you to where these eggs, the fruits of Remest, are going to find a new home.
Either way, it acts as a beacon towards future dragon-related quests, should we choose to use it.
Basically, as a thank you, he breaks my rock, kind of.
He just puts a little crack,
Breaks it in
crack
You
in it.
know,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be a good thing.
Gives you more powers.
It's like a
But
geo.
knowing-
Did it? We don't know what it does. We still don't know.
We're gonna find out.
The guard does try to find you. They do not catch you along the way.
We go further into the woods and stuff like that because like Kara's like tracking and
Into the woods.
You think
I wish.
hearing about this silver dragon wanting to start his family again kind of makes y'all a little homesick, and you want to get back home where your loot and your little owl bear are waiting for you.
Yeah.
You travel back up to Fenhaven. There's quite a few encounters that are happening. You fight some Corrids, some crazy
Best encounter we've had yet. Love that one.
Little like garden gnome things with giant sentient wiry
For you,
beards.
I nearly died twice.
You did nearly die twice. It was nuts.
You also fought some Onk eggs, and you have found like weird glass river trails along the way.
And this funky obelisk, right?
You start to move up towards Fenhaven, and the closer you get, you decide, because that guard has been on the road looking for you, that with Kara's keen knowledge, you could veer a little bit around and not take the main path into the forest a bit and come around sort of from the east to Fenhaven, back to Fenhaven, and that way not be under such a watchful eye, which is why we're meeting all of these Horrids and Onkegs and all sorts of creatures. And we see out on the very outskirts in the hills a sort of monolith, a giant standing stone of some kind that has been cracked and broken, and parts of rock have been moved away from it. It also has a big imprint next to it on the ground. The ground just kind of imprints a bit before moving into being solid earth again and hills. Very interesting, weird looking standing stone. You take a few bits of the debris that has fallen off of the standing stone, keeping it for later because we don't know if we're gonna need it. But you start getting a very sickening feeling that there's a possibility that this, from the magic that's coming off of it, this might be where that Abishai came from and originated in some way.
And other creatures are coming out of it.
We are finding a lot of different signatures and energies coming off of the monolith. Not just, nefarious.
Could be some good things coming out of it too.
Could be.
If I remember correctly, it was like something along the lines of not only fiend, but also celestial and maybe fae.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of energies and whatnot were coming off from that.
Yeah. Very interesting, very weird thing to have just out in the middle of nowhere. Probably half a day's ride from Fenhaven. You take what you need from the standing stone, and on your horses have moved back and in from the east into Fenhaven's vast farmland that's over here, coming from the way the Abishai had shown up. So it does stand to reason that this could be where it came from. You begin to move in and seeing a few farmers around you as you guys enter into the outskirts of Fenhaven. They start giving you some looks of welcome.
Questionable looks of welcome. A little bit suspicious looks of welcome.
Sure, and a little bit of relief, but also you get the feeling that there's something they're not telling you. And that is where we have left off. I'm so excited for you guys to see the next portion of what this is gonna entail.
I want to know what happens next.
I have a question for you all.
Yes.
Out of all of these many levels, many years that Illuminated Outcasts has been playing, do you have any sort of favorite encounter / combat that we've had so far?
Oh man.
Ooh.
I already mentioned it earlier, but that cord fight was just a whole lot of fun for me. I know it wasn't like a super story impactful one. It was just a random encounter. But I really had the fun with just the way that it all worked out and the role play and the atmosphere and just it's what made D&D so fun to me. Just the ridiculous fun behind it.
I think for me, it's tied, and it's not that it's impactful maybe to this main plot line, but I think it's impactful more to character connection and character development. And those were the cooking contest, and because it's just so out of, I wish so much we had that recorded, because it's so
Right.
out of the realm of what anything you see normally. I've never seen
Just gonna have
anything
to go
like
back
it.
again.
We'll just have
Yeah.
to go back to the States, y'all.
And I mean, we've all told Shauna it was such a creative, great. And if you don't watch their stream for playing video games, you really haven't brought it up here. But Shauna does not play video games very often. Joe does. So they have a wonderful stream where they voice act and everything, and it's a lot of fun with a lot of older games. And one of the games they did had a cooking thing in it, and we all kind of kept joking about how funny it was that there was this cooking thing in this video game, and it was one of my favorite parts of that video game.
Me
Honest
too.
to
Best
God,
part is
one of the only
Suikoden
reasons
2,
I want to
in
play
my
that.
opinion.
Sure.
Yeah,
For
it's
sure.
like having watched the game, I don't feel I need to play it, but I'm like, I want just the cooking side of it.
Yep.
can that
As
just
a
be
little
a side
phone
mini
game.
game?
I
Yeah,
just play
I
it as
would
a mini game on
love
my phone.
that.
Get on that. But yeah, no, that one, and then also selfishly, the fighting ring. That was the very first time we'd ever taken
Within-
Thevana into anything like that. And
With
I,
the Nest, the one
Yeah.
that the fighting pit that's in
that's
Renest.
the only fighting pit we've been to.
You guys have gotten in fights in bars, but this was
But not, no, like
This
a
is the proper
legitimate
fighting ring supposed to be
competition.
done, yeah.
Yeah, and I
And
think
we've
it's
heard that
because,
she's been in it, because you guys went into
yes,
the meat gate and there was supposed to be like
Right.
fighting,
yeah.
but we only
Well, backstory wise, headcanon, Thevana has been in them.
yes,
But I'm very much a person of, I like to kind of switch the tropes up for certain classes.
Yeah.
You know, a barbarian does not always have to be dumb. You know, just because a fighter is really good at combat doesn't mean they actually have to enjoy the combat. It can be just, this is something that they are good at, and yes, they use it, but it doesn't mean they, go murder hobo on everything.
sure. Connor, what about you?
Well, of course, Dueling Blades is one of the top of me as a
Gotta be up
player.
there. Yeah,
It's gotta
It's
be
gotta
up
be.
there. Like, as someone who personally has the chef feat, like, having an opportunity to be like, food? You want me to talk about food for 4 hours? Yes, please! Like, of course!
And like Connor planned these things out. He like studied.
I studied
Oh.
for
Yeah.
this session.
I want to talk about someone, studying to make sure that they are ready for the thing.
Yeah.
I went balls to the wall just to be prepared for this
Because
session.
it's Dueling Blades. You knew some of what you could do
Yeah.
going into it, but you didn't know, because I think what happened was
We didn't know what the
session. You got into the thing at the very end of the session,
Mhm.
and you heard what the rules was gonna be,
Mhm.
and they said begin, and that's where I stopped the
That's
session,
where we ended, yeah.
so
So
that
you had a week
you
to
guys
prepare a
can-
menu.
somewhat plan, and
Yeah.
you knew that there were ingredients that you're gonna need to use, but you have to find them.
Yeah.
Well,
And we have no idea what they are.
Yeah, and there was
so
also-
difficult,
Shauna even had judges that she gave specific
Mhm.
descriptions of that, anyone who watches cooking shows, you got to play to the judges a little bit.
Oh,
It's a
absolutely.
competition. So you got to know. So now I'm sure, knowing Connor, he has notes of each of those judges. So if we do, or when we
Yep.
do go back, if one of those judges is on the panel again, we got some prior knowledge here
Yep.
that we can work with,
100%. But the
yes.
best fight for Kara
Yeah.
I think that I wouldn't necessarily say was her favorite fight,
Sure.
but it was a fight that mattered to her beyond the fight at the very beginning and meeting McCree and meeting Thavana and the rest of the other adventuring party.
Yeah.
That one was very important for vastly different reasons, but the fight that was very important to her was the fight at the gala. That
I was
one
gonna say the
The
gala.
meant
gala,
a lot to her.
assassination attempt at the
The
gala.
assassination
Yeah.
attempt. That was
Kara,
that was
that's
major
huge.
for her. And it
Well,
was
you know,
such
having-
a good fight. Like that fight
Cast
from
come try and haunt you in the middle of a combat is
hey, hi, hello, shit.
That was a study in panicking as the meat shield of the group and going, will you all stop running away from me?
I'm busy micromanaging.
way
I'm sorry.
too many things.
I went down a lot, but
Yes, you did.
I survived, and I helped the Empress survive, so I feel like my job is done.
Right? But that fight from a D&D and storytelling and player standpoint, like that was a major fight that really kind of solidified of like, okay, this isn't like we're dealing with level 10 craziness, but this is like, okay, things are getting real. This is not just we're going around and
It
doing mercenary
definitely-
work. This is some real shit right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Bigger vibe.
Bigger vibe.
What
Turning
about
point
you,
for
Joe?
sure. Two that I thought were just super fun and as challenging as a player. The ones in the catacombs beneath Ziane, with the undead. That was a lot of fun. And
That was one of the first times we'd ever used Fog of War for a fight, so that's why that one was so memorable.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And then everything in the Moldor mines, when we had like the portals and all the little different things, another fog of war, you know, which ended up with the marked ones and everything in the Day of Colors. That was a super challenging and fascinating, interesting encounter as well.
It was.
But I think one of my favorites from a story standpoint, other than the ones that have already been mentioned, was the Galabdur fight. The first time where we went, we don't just need to murder hobo everything. We need to this thing that we think is our enemy is actually just a child trying to defend itself and its home, and we need to rethink how we do things. Something I love about all of the encounters that you provide for Ashana is there's such a variety. Some of them are puzzle oriented, but there's some social ones, some fog of war ones, the cooking one. Some of them are combat, and some of them are not necessarily all about the combat, but combat is a part of some of them. I just love the variety of encounters that you deliver to us, and you either make them plot driven or you find a way to let us help make them character driven. If they're just a random battle or a random encounter on the middle of traveling, they may or may not be connected to the plot. But if they're not, you let us role play through them to make it important for us and show the investment that the characters have. Do you have favorite encounters or anything, Shauna?
Other than the ones that have been said, I really liked some of it is encounter, some of it is puzzle, some of it is just RP. But all of the stuff that happens within the School of Magic Obligatory.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, that was very cool.
School of
Obligatory is
Magic
so
and just
cool.
the
fun.
watching Shauna go
Yeah.
when
Well, it was great.
ideas of what to do
I-
were thrown
I
out.
get
I'm
to
gonna
go
do
up
this, and I just remember watching Shauna go.
Yeah. I get to be like, okay, I'm gonna throw some absurd stuff at you, and y'all are like, oh
damn
yeah,
mirror.
bet.
Damn mirror.
And I'm like, okay. But yeah, when a doorknob or a door handle, you know, reaches out like a rope, asks you where you want to go, and flings you anywhere within the school, sometimes away from each other, it's so much fun for me. do you guys have any questions for me? I may or may not answer them.
Man.
Oh boy.
I can say personally, I've only ever had one question, but I know for a fact you won't answer it.
Yeah, same.
And yet I still will ask it here in this public time that we have to talk. What the hell's up with the crows, man?
By the way, I found that notebook.
The crows!
Conspiracy theory. Now that I found the notebook.
Oh man.
Any other questions?
Yeah, that's a non-answer right there.
Any other questions? Yeah, okay.
Thank you guys so much for joining me. I love catching up with this. I can't wait for you to see what is going to happen when you reach into Fenhaven proper. And for all of you geeks out there, thank you so much for watching this story thus far within Mythic Geekdom's supporting roles. You can watch the Illuminated Outcasts on their journeys Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitch, on YouTube, and we will definitely have a playlist over on the YouTube in case you miss anything or want to check back in with this video specifically, as there is a lot to cover. And I guess until next time, stay mythic out there, geeks. See you soon.